Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 18th episode of the story, where Naruto is raised by Jiraya and Tsunade. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. When you find yourself part of an ancient conspiracy, Naruto was in the Hokage's office. The only other people in the room besides him and his adoptive father were Tsunade and Shizune. After giving him the report on the Suna mission, Naruto requested to talk with him, Tsunade and Shizune about certain developments that happened during the mission. Most importantly, the fact that Orochimaru had somehow cloned Hagane and Kaida. "I can't believe that monster would go such lengths for mere bloodline limits," Shizune commented in disgust. "Sadly, I can. Orochimaru always wanted our children the moment knowledge of their abilities reached his ears, and if he couldn't have the originals, he'll get replacements," Jiraiya said in subdued anger. "Mom?" Naruto asked Tsunade, who had been silent the whole conversation. Tsunade didn't say anything, and merely looked at the village outside the window. Her breathing was rather heavy. Naruto felt compelled to crack a quip on how he was expecting her to trash the whole office in a fit of righteous anger upon hearing her former teammates' actions, but she remained surprisingly calm. "If Orochimaru send our kids clones against you is because he doesn't care if we know about them. And in my experience, that's never a good sign," Jiraiya stated, crossing his fingers under his chin. "Did they have cursed seals?" "No." "Well, they may have, but if they did, they didn't use them. And given that we ended up winning, the fact that they choose retreat over using them points towards not having it," Naruto reasoned. "Of course. According to Anko, there's only a 10% chance of surviving the sealing process. He probably doesn't want to risk them," Shizune said. "That doesn't remove the possibility of branding them in the future," Jiraiya added. "Indeed. But what we should ask ourselves is what are we going to do with them," Shizune pointed out. An air of uneasiness sat upon the office. "I know they're clones of your children, but they're also Orochimaru's minions. How should we deal with them?" "Save them," Tsunade said, turning around, a determined fire burning in her eyes. "Those kids shouldn't be judged by the crimes of their creator. In fact, I'm sure they aren't even aware of their origins. Maybe we can use that to convince them to come to our side." "Easier said than done," Shizune said with a sigh. "Orochimaru conditions his servants into being devoted to him with an inhuman zeal." "Yes, but Orochimaru shows little to no care about his minions either. Plus we do have a history of turning our enemies to our side, if Zabuza and the Sound Genin are any indication. And once they're safe," Tsunade pointed out. Her eyes then narrowed. "I'll beat the life out of that pale-skinned bastard with my own bare hands." "That's if I don't beat you to it first," Jiraiya interceded, before forcing himself to calm down. "Well, now that we know this, we can plan for the next time Orochimaru sends those clones against us," Jiraiya said, closing the discussion. "Is there anything else you'd want to tell us, Naruto?" "Actually, yes. During the mission, I talked with the Kyuubi," Naruto stated. Tsunade and Shizune's eyes snapped open, but they didn't say anything. He then explained what the Kyuubi told him, about the statue, the Sage of the Six Paths, the Rinnegan and one of the Akatsuki possessing it, as well as the possibility about an Uzumaki among them. "Those are indeed troubling news," Jiraiya said. "But the more information we know about the enemy, the better." "Do you know about the Rinnegan, Jiraiya-sama?" Shizune asked. "Not much. Rumors, legends, but nothing concrete. I'll put a few agents to investigate this issue. If there's nothing left to discuss, then you can go, Naruto," Jiraiya told him. Naruto nodded, and walked out of the office, followed by Shizune, who said something about meeting her team for training. That only left Tsunade in the office. "Jiraiya, you know about the Rinnegan," Tsunade pointed out. "I do," he admitted. "Then why you didn't say anything?" Tsunade asked, placing her hands on her hips. I admit that I don't want to think that one of those kids ended up in Akatsuki, Jiraya confessed. Even if I'd be happy to know that they survived their clash with Hanzo, I understand. You spent 2 years with those brats, it's normal that you feel a strong bond with them, Tsunade said, placing a comforting hand in his shoulder. While I'll try to remain unbiased, I don't want to do anything rash. I'll put somebody to do some research and see if Nagato is truly an Akatsuki, Jiraiya told her. Okay, but if the worst come to pass, try not to do anything foolish, okay? Tsunade softly pleaded. A lot of time has passed, and you don't know how much those kids have changed ever since. Tsunade bent down, and gave Jiraiya a chaste kiss in the lips. And with that, the slug princess finally left the office, leaving Jiraiya alone. A month later, Kurenai's assault squad were having dinner at Shushuya, the team's Jonin-sensei's favorite restaurant, to celebrate the successful completion of an A-rank mission. The mood was cheerful so far. A month has passed since Gaara's kidnapping, and during that time, Konoha didn't hear any news about Akatsuki. Even if they knew better than lowering their guard due to their apparent lack of activity, they were indeed going to enjoy the reprieve as long as it lasted. Especially now that once again, Konoha hosted the Chunin exams, and such topic was on everybody's mouths. I heard your little siblings managed to make it to the final round, right? Kurenai asked Naruto and Hinata. The couple nodded happily. Yeah, did you really doubt it? Those kids are just as awesome as we are. I bet they will earn a promotion on their first try just like Hinata and me. I heard that this time around, the finals will consist on team matches rather than individual ones, Haku pointed out. That's even better. The three of them form a really solid team. Just as good as us, Naruto continued his unabashed praising. It would have been interesting if we were able to fight in the finals as a team unit, instead of on our own, Hinata commented. Yeah. I'm sure you would have been of a lot of help in my fight against Sasuke Uchiha, Haku pointed out, remembering his fight against the black-haired teen. Sasuke would have had his teammates to help him as well, Kurenai pointed out. Yes, but Naruto-kun and Hinata-san are much better fighters than Sakura-san and Karen-san. We could take the latter two easily, then triple-team him, Haku explained. Any other teams of interest that made it to the finals? Kurenai inquired. As far as I heard, the team with Old Man Hokage's grandson made it to the final as well. And so did Tamari's genin, Naruto recalled. Shikamaru-kun is really happy that he gets to see Tamari-san every day. Of course, he will never admit it out loud, Hinata said with a giggle. Yeah, sometimes wonder what can make him drop that everything is troublesome attitude he has, Naruto added, laughing as well. Thank goodness that we already passed the Chunin exams ourselves, and even moved in rank past Chunin as well, Hinata mentioned. I'm positive Haku-kun and myself will soon be promoted to Jonin as well. And we will be an all-Jonin squad. Naruto cheered. Kurenai nodded, and smiled. Yes, you three certainly grew a lot since you left the academy and were assigned under my watch. While I knew you three had a lot of potential, I never expected it to be so great. I can safely say that you no longer need me as your sensei anymore. Don't say that, Kurenai-sensei. You will always be an integral part of this team, Hinata softly protested. Yes. Besides, I still have much to learn regarding genjutsu if I ever want to get close to your level, Haku added. Kurenai smiled sadly at them. Unfortunately, you'll have to do without me for some time in the near future, the genjutsu mistress said, much to her students' shock, before her smile grew warmed. Because I've been removed from active duty due maternity leave. The reaction was instant, and the faces of Kurenai's students morphed into expressions of pure joy, and quickly proceeded to congratulate her. Thank you, guys. I'm really happy for this, even if it means not being part of this team anymore, the raven-haired woman replied. She then turned at Naruto. Naruto, since you're the one with the highest rank, you will be the new leader of the assault squad. Understood, Kurenai-sensei. I'll do my best to fill your spot as the team leader, Naruto enthusiastically replied. And I'll do my best as well to fill your spot as the genjutsu specialist, Haku added. Let's say we'll do our best to make up for the fact that we'll be one member short for some time, Hinata finished. I'm sure all of you will do a splendid job, Kurenai replied. Meanwhile, as this conversation happened, a black-haired girl with green eyes wearing what appeared to be religious robes crossed Konoha's gates. As with most newcomers, she was interrogated by the Chunin guarding the gate, namely Izumo and Kotetsu. Name? Kotetsu asked. My name is Nori. I'm a priestess from the land of tea, the girl told the pair of Chunin, showing a rather pleasant disposition. What business brings you to Konoha, Miss Nori? Izumo asked. I wish to hire the services of one of your ninjas. Isn't that the reason most people come to a ninja village? Nori asked, tilting her head a little. I guess you have a point, Izumo awkwardly admitted. In that case, you should head to the Hokage's tower to conduct your business. Is a large, red building with the kanji of fire on the front. It can be seen from here. Nori smiled at the duo. Yes, I see it. Thank you very much, she said, before she walked into the village, and headed towards the Hokage's tower. Hokage's office. Next day the assault squad daily training was interrupted by an ANBU appearing there and telling them that the Hokage had an urgent mission for them. Not wasting any time, the now 3 ninja squad headed to the Hokage's tower and see what it was. Turns out, Naruto's team wasn't the only one Jiraiya had summoned for a mission, since Guy's close combat squad was present as well. Haku and Tenten were obviously happy with the fact that they'd get to be on a mission together. In front of both teams was the Hokage. His face reflected a serious and even tense expression, unlike his usual cheerful and laid-back disposition. Whatever this mission was, it seemed it was important. Yesterday, we had a visit from a priestess from the land of the tea. She requested a team of ninjas to escort her back to her home, Jiraiya asked. Wait. You assembled 2 of the strongest teams Konoha has for a mere escort mission? Niji asked, skeptical. Who is this priestess? Come on, Niji, is very unyouthful to deny a request from help like that, especially from a holy woman. Lee loudly protested. I'll get to that shortly. Said woman belongs to a group called Order of the Moon Acolytes. Jiraiya's eyes rested on Hinata. Hinata, does that name sound familiar to you? The Hyuga heiress titled her head in confusion. No, it doesn't. Should it be familiar? I was asking mostly because the priestess requested specifically you to be among the escort group. She even knew your name, Jiraiya casually said. Naturally, the effect of his words were instant. Wait, what? A shocked Hinata asked. Now I demand to know who is this woman, an angry Niji hollered. This situation seems rather suspicious to me. Taking this mission might mean putting Hinata-san in danger, Haku sagely noted. And I agree, Jiraiya said, taking a look at Guy's team. Wait, that's why you called us, right? Niji said in realization. We're Hinata-sama's escorts, just in case something happened to her. Exactly. It took me very little to realize that said woman is not interested in any kind of escort. She just wants to take Hinata somewhere else, Jiraiya explained. And you're going to let Hinata-heim walk into a potential trap? Naruto asked, growing outraged. What the hell, Dad? Did you forget that somebody tried to kidnap Hinata when she was little? I'm aware of the implications, Naruto, Jiraiya said, hoping to soothe his son. That's why I assembled the best ninjas I have currently available to diminish the risk to a minimum. You haven't told us why you agreed to do this mission to begin with, Hokage-sama, Niji asked, crossing his arms while fixing a hard stare on the white-haired man. Said woman claims to have important information regarding the Hyuga clan, and Konoha as a whole. She shared some of that information with me as well, which is more than enough incentive to continue with the mission, Jiraiya replied. She said she can't share the rest until Hinata sees what she has to show her. Understood, Hokage-sama, Hinata softly replied. We'll do our best to complete this mission. In that case, Jiraiya snapped his fingers, and the door opened. You should meet out client. All 7 ninjas turned around, and saw the girl in question, escorted by an ANBU. She let out a little gasp when her eyes rested on Hinata. Nori, these are the ninjas that will escort you to your home. Guys, this is Nori, Jiraiya introduced both parties. It's an honor to meet you, Nori softly said, making a bow. She then walked closer towards Hinata. By any chance, are you Hinata Hyuga? Hinata nodded. Yes, I am. Nori's smile grew, and even let out a swoon. Oh, you have no idea how long I've been waiting to meet you, Hinata-sama. The whole purpose of my order leads up to this day. Hinata laughed awkwardly, and took a step backwards. Honest to meet you too, I guess, Hinata unsurely said. Now that everything's settled, when can we leave? Time is of essence, Nori insisted. Don't worry, it won't take long. Give them an hour so they can get prepared for the journey ahead, Jiraiya told her. Guy, given that of all the Jonin you're the most veteran, you'll be the leader of this mission. Yash. Thank you, Hokage-sama. You won't regret this decision. And if you do, I'll run 500 laps around Konoha on my hands, with boulders tied to my ankles. Guy enthusiastically shouted, as he gave Jiraiya a thumbs up. I'm starting to regret it, Jiraiya grumbled under his breath. Anyway, you're dismissed. I'll be eagerly waiting your report once you get back. A couple hours later, the 7 ninjas and the priestess were already heading south, to the land of the tea, leaping from one tree branch to another as fast as they could. In order to be there as fast as possible, Guy offered to carry Nori on her back, while Lee carried her bag with the few supplies she had brought with her. They estimated that, at the current pace, they'd reach Nori's home in a little less than 2 days. The end of the first day arrived before everybody realized it. Alright, the sun will set soon, so let us set as well. Guy cheerfully ordered. This seems to be a good place to set up a camp. Let's distribute the chores, shall we? Haku offered to look for firewood, while Tenten rather unsubtle volunteered to go with him. Fortunately for them, nobody disagreed. Guy, Lee, and Naruto went to find some food in the forest, either berries, fruit, or by hunting. That left Niji, Hinata, and Nori to set up tents and the rest of the camp. Niji had been waiting for an opportunity to approach Nori and talk with her. The Hyuga was a reserved clan to the point of paranoia, if the cursed seal on his forehead was any indication. Yet this Nori treated Hinata as if she was some sort of celebrity, known by all. As far as his experience went, whenever somebody showed disproportionate interest in a clan, it was never because of good intentions. After he finished setting up the tents, his keen eyesight spotted Nori checking her sleeping bag. She walked towards her. Excuse me, Niji said, in his usual stoic tone. May I have a word with you? Nori turned around, and smiled at the Hyuga. Of course. Your name was Niji, right? The branch house member nodded. What can I do for you, Niji-sama? Niji was taken a bit aback. After a lifetime of using that honorific to refer to other family members, it felt incredibly weird, almost to the point of sounding wrong, that somebody else used it with him, to the point that it took him a couple seconds to regain his bearings. Listen, I'm going to be blunt. I noticed that, for somebody who isn't from the land of fire, much less Konoha, you seem to know quite a lot about Hinata-sama and the Hyuga clan, Niji pointed out. I'm sure you'll understand my suspicion. Of course I do, Niji-sama. But I'm confident that such suspicion will turn into trust once the truth about the Hyuga clan is revealed, Nori enigmatically said. Truth of the Hyuga clan? What truth? Niji asked, half annoyed, but half curious. Everything will be revealed at the appropriate time. More specifically, when we reach my home. It is not safe to speak of such things here. Who knows who may be listening, Nori replied. Your evasiveness isn't helping, Niji bluntly stated. How do I know you're not taking us to a trap? It wouldn't be the first time somebody pretended to be a friend of us to kidnap Hinata-sama, Niji accused. You talk about that incident with Kyumo, right? Nori asked. Niji was a bit taken aback by her knowledge of that event, given that Konoha did their best to make sure it never reached the public ears. But given how much this girl knew, it wasn't that surprising. Yes, that was the work of our enemies. So you made enemies with Kyumo then? Niji asked. Nori shook her head. No. I'm talking about somebody far worse than a single ninja village. Kyumo were nothing but puppets of this enemy. And who is this enemy you speak about? Akatsuki? Niji guessed, though he immediately tossed the idea aside. The Akatsuki were Jinchuriki hunters, and were not interested in collecting bloodline limits. Well, one of the Akatsuki was, but as far as he knew, that wasn't the goal of the organization as a whole. Again, I'm sorry, but I can't tell you right now. It's too dangerous to talk about that here, Nori insisted. But try to quell your frustration. Once we're in a safe place tomorrow, you'll learn everything. Niji didn't look frustrated, but he didn't look relieved or satisfied either. I see. In that case, I hope you don't mind if I don't take my eyes from you as long as this mission lasts. A sensible, and very understandable course of action, Niji-sama, Nori replied with a nod, before she smiled at him. I'm going to prepare some tea. Do you mind helping me? Not in the slightest, Niji agreed. A little later, the two Hyugas and the priestess heard two set of steps coming close to the campsite. We're back. Tentans happily announced as she and Haku returned from the forest. Both of them looked a bit red and sweaty, had messy hair and slightly disheveled clothes. It didn't take a genius to guess what the two of them have been doing. Niji walked towards them, looking even more serious than usual. Where is the firewood? Niji asked. Haku titled his head. Firewood? The firewood you were supposed to gather in order to start a fire, Niji clarified. You know, in order to stay warm once night arrives and we can cook the food Gai-sensei, Lee, and Naruto will bring back. That's it, unless the three of them decide to also have an impromptu three-way make-out session and forget about their duties. Tenten's face became even redder. Oh shit. I knew we were forgetting about something. She took Haku's hand and hurriedly dragged him back to the forest. Niji then shuddered. Gai-sensei, Lee, and Naruto in a three-way make-out. I even came up with that. Now that image will never leave my brain. An hour later, everybody had returned to the campsite, and were enjoying the meal Gai, Lee, and Naruto had brought. Haku and Tenten also brought some firewood as well. The group of 7 ninjas and the one priestess sat around the campfire, and enjoyed their meals. The dinner then made way for some conversation. Hey guys, check it out, this little thing I've been working on for the past months, Tenten excitedly said as she rummaged through her backpack, until she finally produced some small tool. Here it is. What is that? Naruto asked. Tenten answered by pressing a button, which made the tool to expand and develop into a finely crafted bow with no string. A set of seals inscribed across it started to glow with a bluish-white light, and it produced a string made of chakra of the same color. Tadea. This is the chakra bow. A ranged weapon that needs no ammo, only your chakra to attack. Tenten proudly explained. She stood up, tensed the string, and an arrow also made of pure chakra was automatically created. Releasing the string, the arrow softly flew until it crashed against a tree branch, producing a small chakra blast that cut that branch from the tree, falling to the ground below. Wow! That was such an amazing weapon, Tenten. Lee praised. Indeed. As long as you have chakra, this weapon will always work. And you can put more or less chakra into the arrows to regulate their power, the Odango-haired girl explained. It's kinda the same idea behind my chakra sword, right? Naruto asked. Yeah, I took your chakra sword as the base idea, though my intention was to make a ranged weapon, Tenten replied. Can I try it? Haku asked his girlfriend. Wordlessly, Tenten collapsed the bow and tossed it to her boyfriend. Haku unfolded and activated the bow, pulled the string, and generated an arrow made of chakra. The arrow then generated a frosty aura, and quickly turned into ice. It also works with elemental chakra, Haku pointed out, before returning the bow to Tenten. Of course it does. I thought of everything. Tenten boasted. So, if you guys want one, you only have to tell me. I think that with my Byakugan, I can make a good use of such weapon, Hinata pointed out. It's a very useful tool. I'm interested in having one as well, Haku said. Tenten then looked at Naruto and grinned. What about you, Naruto? Do you want one so you don't feel left out? You guys can be the archer squad, she asked, and everybody else laughed. I'd like to think that I stand out, thank you very much, Naruto replied, in a half-joking self-important tone, making everybody else to laugh harder. But since we're talking about fitting with the rest of the team, maybe Niji and you could get a pair of nice green jumpsuits. Everybody laughed, except Niji and Tenten this time around, who instead shuddered, as their faces made a grimace. Oh! That's a great suggestion, Naruto-kun. Lee excitedly agreed, as he turned towards his sensei. Guy-sensei, do you think that when we go back to Konoha we can get Niji and Tenten some green jumpsuits? That won't be necessary, Guy replied, prompting Niji and Tenten to sigh in relief. Because I always carry several spares with me. Now we only need to find the right size. Naruto felt a massive killing intent focused on him coming from Niji and Tenten, though that didn't stop him from sharing a laugh with his friends. While the group of 8 chatted and laughed, they were unaware that there was a certain somebody spying on them. And since neither of them were censors, they couldn't detect this presence. And said spy was feeding all this information to Akatsuki's newest member, who wasn't that far away from there. So, those moon acolytes are finally making their move, Tonari said to no one in particular. His lips curved into a small smirk. Then it should be time to make my move as well. Byakugan Princess, you shall be mine. The next day, Land of Tea. Once sunrise arrived, the group of 8 continued with their journey towards Nori's home, which was completed without incidents. Or at least, that's what it appeared when they arrived to what appeared to be a large wall of rock, and the priestess started that they had arrived, much to their confusion. Are you sure it's here? Unskeptical Naruto asked. Let's ask somebody with a better eyesight, Nori cryptically replied, giggling a little. Hinata-sama, Niji-sama, can you use your Byakugan and tell me what you see? The two Hyuga obliged, and activated their bloodline limits. Both of them let out a soft gasp in unison. What did you see? Haku asked. There's a door in there. Hinata pointed out. It's both made and protected by innumerable chakra seals invisible to the eye. Exactly. We might not be ninja, but we still know how to use chakra, Nori added, as she placed a hand on the wall, and sent a pulse of chakra into it. The effect was instant. The earth started to shake, as a large rectangular section of the stone wall sunk down, leaving a large entrance hole of the same shape. Everybody could see a path that led inside, illuminated by torches on both sides. Hurry, let's get there. Once we get inside, we'll be safe, and all your questions will be answered, Nori urged as she quickly entered in, followed by the 8 ninjas. Once all of them were inside, the section of the stone wall rose again, sealing the entrance with a loud slam, inevitably making some of the Konoha ninja felt that they've walked into a trap, though that may have been their instincts. Nori walked forward, with the rest of the group following her. She cretinely looked far more relaxed, as if she took a weight off of her shoulders. What is this place, Nori-san? Guy asked the priestess. Our home, Nori replied. Our shrine. Our refuge. At least, until now. They eventually left the tunnel, which ended in a massive underground chamber, which looked like nothing the Konoha ninjas had seen. It had the appearance of a massive temple, complete with pillars, statues, smaller temples and shrines, and other religious ornaments. There were a few waterfalls that fed a river that crossed the chamber. It was illuminated by beams of light that came from holes in the chamber ceiling. There were multiple people dressed in the same white robes as Nori, who took no time to notice the newcomers. "Hey, look, Nori is back," a man said. "Yes, it's Nori," a woman replied. "Did you find her, Nori?" a second man asked. "Yes, my brethren, I have returned." "But that's not important," Nori then grabbed Hinata by the wrist and pulled her forward. "Because I found her. The Byakugan princess is finally with us." The chamber was filled by cheers and shouts of joy and jubilation, many repeating "Byakugan princess" over and over. Hinata really didn't know what to make out of that. Nori seemed to catch the Hyuga's confusion. "Don't worry, everything will become clearer once you meet my father. He's the leader of our order, and the one with all the answers," Nori assured. "He'll explain everything. Now follow me." Nori took the group of Konoha ninjas to the temple in the opposite extreme of the underground cavern, which was also the biggest. On their way there, they noticed something odd about the statues scattered around the area, which depicted a man and a woman. The man had horns, and the woman had 4 arms. They wondered what kind of deities these religious people worshipped. When they entered the temple, a strong smell of incense invaded their noses. The temple, just as finely decorated as the rest of the place, was empty, save for a single burly man with a beard and a mustache that was sitting on a table-like altar, reading from a large tome, under the light of several candles. He took no time to notice the newcomers, and recognize Nori. "Ah, Nori, welcome back. It pleases me to see you so soon," and completely unharmed, the man got up, and walked to hug his daughter. After that, he turned towards the Konoha ninja, and made a head bow. "Welcome to our humble home, Konoha ninjas. My name is Takuya, High Priest of the Order of the Moon Acolytes." Everybody else introduced themselves in return as well. Unfortunately, the atmosphere wasn't as cordial as Takuya would have hoped. "I never heard of such group," Niji suspiciously said. "That's because we didn't want to be heard of," Takuya sagely replied. "We were created with a single purpose, which is to complete a sacred mission. Unfortunately, we do have powerful enemies that don't wish us to succeed in our endeavor. But they're about to fail. Now that the Byakugan princess is here, our mission shall be completed," Nori added, her voice overflowed with hope. "Okay, I think it's time for some answers," Naruto impatiently demanded, as he took a step forward. "You keep calling Hinata Byakugan princess and refer to her as if she's some sort of world savior. What's with that?" "Fear not, your worries and doubts shall be elucidated," Takuya assured. "However, our history is a really long one. You might want to take a seat," Takuya said with a hand motion. All the Konoha ninja and Nori sat on the floor around him. "But first of all, answer me this questions. What do you know about the Sage of the 6 Paths?" "They said he was the very first man who ever used chakra, and that taught humankind how to do it as well," Tenten replied. "But that's just an old myth. There are no historical records that such figure ever existed," Niji pointed out. In the past, Naruto would have been quick to agree with Niji. But now, he wasn't so sure. It would be better to remain silent and listen before opening his mouth, or even forming an opinion. "Wow, that's so unlike me," Naruto thought, repressing a chuckle. "Part of the reason of the very existence of this order has been to preserve the knowledge of ancient times. Work we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't keep such secrecy," Nori interceded. "Now father, if you may tell our guests what they need to know." "I was about to do that," Takuya replied, before clearing his throat. "The story of ninjutsu begins with a woman. A woman that came from a faraway land. Some even said that her home was in the sky beyond the stars. Though that's irrelevant for this tale. Her name was Kagaya Otsutsuki, and she was the first Byakugan user. Naturally, Niji and Hinata were taken aback, but decided to remain silent for the time being. Nobody knows why she came to this planet or what she wanted, though she claimed that she came to bring peace to the world. To do so, she sought to consume the fruit of a powerful tree called the Shinju, or Divine Tree. That fruit only appeared once every 1,000 years, and whoever ate from it, it would gain the power of a god. Something she managed to achieve, and using her newfound divine powers, she put an end to all wars, and instated world peace. Do this, Kagaya ended up being worshipped as a goddess. It was known that Kagaya was pregnant when she ate the divine fruit. The name of her lover and father of her children was sadly lost to history, but beyond that he isn't relevant to this story either, and she gave birth to 2 twin children, both boys, which she named Hagoromo and Hamura. The older, Hagoromo, would become the sage of the 6 paths. At first glance, Kagaya's peaceful world looked like the kind of future we strive for. But the peace she created was artificial. Conflict still existed, she simply shut them down by force rather than trying to properly solve them. People grew more and more unhappy, and they started to see Kagura as what she really was, a tyrant with far too much power. People went from worshipping her as if she was a goddess, to fearing her like a demon. Hagoromo and Hamura inherited their mother's vast power. Hamura had a Byakugan, just like her, while Hagoromo developed a Dojutsu known as the Rinnegan. Despite their power, the brothers tried to solve conflicts in a peaceful way, and they did try to convince their mother to drop her oppressive ways, but Kagaya refused to do so. Having no other options, the brothers engaged Kagaya in combat. Kagaya found her sons way stronger than she thought, and in order to have a chance at beating them, she merged with the still existing divine tree, and became an abomination as horrifying as powerful, a beast named the 10 Tails. 10 Tails? A startled Naruto asked. Takuya and Nori realized it wasn't the first time he heard that. Is it related to the other tailed beasts? I thought then one with the most tails was the fox, Tenten pointed out. Yes, it is. I'll explain in a second, but first you need to let me finish, Takuya replied. Sorry, Takuya-san. Please, continue, Lee politely asked. Takuya nodded as well. Anyway, the battle that ensued was of such scale, is pretty much impossible to imagine, to the point that it pretty much changed the face of the planet forever. Think of the Valley of the End, only applied to the whole world. After literal months of battle, the brothers reached a grim conclusion: the 10 Tails was functionally immortal, and no matter how much damage they did, it would never die. The only way to end the battle was to incapacitate it. To do so, they drained the 10 Tails of its chakra, and sealed it inside Hagoromo. Then, using a powerful jutsu, they sealed the 10 Tails' empty husk inside the moon. The battle over, the brothers planned how to rebuild the world and heal it from the damage their mother had caused. Hagoromo stayed on Earth, while Hamura and his followers traveled to the moon, in order to watch over what it used to be their mother, as well as other possible threats from beyond the stars. Despite their power, Hagoromo and Hamura considered themselves human, and despite having the means to prolong their lives indefinitely to live forever, they choose instead to age and die like humans. That means that something had to be done with the 10 Tails chakra Hagoromo sealed inside him. So, when Hagoromo's life was about to reach its natural end, he released the 10 Tails chakra, split it in 9 parts, gave them shape and a mind of their own, and became the tailed beasts you know today. That's exactly what the 9 Tails told me. Naruto excitedly interrupted. Naturally, all eyes were drawn to him. Naruto, you shouldn't reveal so casually your status as a Jinchuriki, Guy said in a jarringly serious and chiding tone. Sorry, Naruto stammered. Naruto-san's status as a Jinchuriki does not matter to us. But it seems that it matters for this situation in particular, Nori calmly reassured, before her eyes rested on the blonde. You said the 9 Tails told you this story before? Yeah, well, a very summarized version. He didn't told me the name of the Sage of the Six Paths or that Kaguya lady. But he did told me about the 10 tails, Naruto explained. Also, I think the 10 tails lifeless husk might not be sealed inside the moon anymore. Takuya and Nori paled. What do you mean by that? Elaborate, boy, the latter requested. The Akatsuki can summon it. It's called the demonic statue of the outer path. They use it to seal the tailed beasts they capture there, Naruto told them. What? Naruto-kun, if you knew that, why didn't you tell us about it? Hinata asked, sounding almost hurt. Yes. Any information regarding Akatsuki should always be shared, Niji insisted. Sorry again. The source wasn't exactly the most believable. Naruto defensively replied. But it's not that I kept it a secret from everybody. Mom and Dad know too. The two priests paled even further. But if they're doing that, no. They can't be trying to revive the 10 tails. Nobody would be stupid enough to do that. Father, we're obviate something. Only a bearer of the Rinnegan can unseal the demonic statue, and there hasn't been one since the sage himself. Clearly, somebody in this Akatsuki group has one. Nonsense. If a second Rinnegan bearer existed, we would know it. Takuya protested. While I don't want to suggest anything about your ability to gather information, evidence suggests otherwise, Lee argued, trying to sound as polite as possible. In that case, it's a good thing the Byakugan princess is here. We're going to need her power in order to counter this threat, Takuya replied, sweating a little. My power? I help as much as I can, but what can I do on my own against Akatsuki? Especially against somebody with a Rinnegan? Hinata asked. You'll know soon enough. Father, resume the tale, please, Nori requested. Takuya nodded, and cleared his throat again. Before we continue, I think it's important to establish the source of Kaguya, Hagoromo, and Hamura's power. By eating the fruit of the Shinju, Kaguya's chakra turned into we call divine chakra, or six paths chakra. A kind of chakra way more powerful than normal human chakra. Naturally, her sons inherited said kind of chakra as well. So that's why the sage is of the six paths, right? Haku ventured to guess. Takuya nodded. Exactly. Said chakra is what allowed Hagoromo to develop his Rinnegan, as well as plenty of other powers we normal humans can only dream of. Now, our tale here diverges into two branches. Hagoromo's life on Earth, and Hamura's life on the moon. I'll begin with the former. Hagoromo tasked himself with the quest of bringing peace to the world. To do so, he created the Ninshu, a set of religious and philosophical beliefs whose goal was to use chakra to bring humanity together and give them a better understanding of each other, which would lead to eventual peace. However, he knew that it would take generations for such thing to happen, and since he chose to live and die like a human, he would never live to see this. Hagoromo, however, had two sons, and he had to choose one of them to carry on his legacy once his life came to an end. His older son, Indra, inherited the sage's half of the six paths chakra. Said half allowed him to develop the Sharingan, and he's indeed, the very first Sharingan user, and the ancestor of the Uchiha clan, Takuya explained. Whoa! Do the current Uchihas know this? Naruto asked in shock. I mean, they're pretty much direct descendants of the sage of the six paths. Tayuya just shrugged. I don't know, more than likely not. Now, pay attention young Uzumaki, since this part will be of interest to you. The younger son, Azura, inherited the sage's young half of the six paths chakra. Said half allowed him to develop would release, and he's the progenitor of the Senju and Uzumaki clans. Whoa! Naruto echoed, this time even louder. He sounded really giddy. So does this mean that I'm a descendant of the sage too? And Mom, and Kaida, and Hagane? Yes you are. Though I doubt very few people will take those claims seriously, as valid as they are, Takuya replied, rolling his eyes a little. May I continue? Yeah, sorry, Naruto sheepishly replied. The older son, Indra, believed that the key to peace was power. Somebody, or a group of people, that should wield power in order to stop conflicts and punish those who start them. The younger son, Azura, believed that the key to peace was through love and mutual understanding. As you can see, Indra's beliefs were a parallel of Kagaya's failed system, while Azura's embodied the cores of Ninshu. Naturally, Hagoromo chose Azura as his successor. However, such choice didn't come without repercussions. Hagoromo thought that Indra would accept his decision, and didn't foresee how displeased he was. Feeling he was claiming his birthright, Indra attacked Azura with the intent to kill him. That would be the beginning of a blood feud that would last generations, since, as Indra failed to kill Azura and Hagoromo, he promised that his descendants would carry his hatred, and would never stop until Hagoromo and Azura's legacy was a thing of the past. That's what we called the Uchiha's curse of hatred, which had and will lead them to a quest for power, and the extermination of those who are descended from the younger brother, Azura. The mind of the Konoha ninjas collectively traveled back to the night the Uchihas pulled their coup d'état on the village. Was this the result of Indra's curse, or it was a mere coincidence? So far, these revelations lend some credence to the former. Hinata raised her hand. Excuse me, said it was the yin half of the Six Paths chakra what causes the Sharingan to awaken? Yes. The yin half of the chakra is the one tied to the emotions and thoughts. So, when an Uchiha feels intense emotions, it causes the yin chakra to strongly react, and it manifests in the Sharingan. When an Uchiha experiences an even more intense emotion, it causes it to evolve even further into the Mangekyo Sharingan. Are you aware of its existence? Takuya asked. All of them nodded. With the Senju, it's a similar process. Yang chakra is the one tied to the body, but unlike the Uchihas, a Senju or an Uzumaki won't be able to use wood release unless they're born with an exceptionally powerful chakra, such as the case of Hashirama Senju. Wait, what's so special about wood release? I thought it was just an elemental combination, just my own ice release, Haku asked. It might be at first glance, it was Nori who replied. But becomes clearer when you think about it. Tell me, Haku-san, what's the origin of the Six Paths chakra? The divine tree, Haku automatically replied, before the realization dawned upon him. Wait, don't tell me, yes. Wood release isn't just summoning a bunch of trees. You're channeling the raw power of the Shinju itself. That's why it has the ability to bind and control the tailed beasts, Nori explained. I have a question, Tenten asked. So what would happen if an Uchiha and a Senju or Uzumaki had a child together? That child would have both the yin and yang halves of the Six Paths chakra, right? Takuya nodded. Exactly. Albeit the virulent hatred both clans had for each other prevented from such thing to while the kid would be powerful, the parents should also be strong in their respective halves of the Six Paths chakra for the resulting child to reach its full potential. And in that case, the kid should be able to awaken the ultimate from the Sharingan, the Rinnegan itself. The revelation led to another silence, as the Konoha ninjas pondered those words. Naruto's thoughts, however, were leading him to a grim conclusion. He suspected that one of the Akatsuki might be an Uzumaki, and now had the confirmation that one of the Akatsuki also possesses the Rinnegan. Now, he was told that a powerful Uzumaki has the potential to develop the Rinnegan if they also have strong Uchiha ascendancy. How did this happen? Nori's eyes rested on Hinata. Now that you have understanding of the working of Six Paths chakra, you'll understand better your role as the Byakugan princess. Father, tell them about Hamura-sama. Takuya nodded. Hamura and his many followers traveled to the moon. There, they built a small civilization, whose purpose was to watch over the demonic statue of the Outer Path, preserve the historic knowledge of Kagaya and the Otsutsuki clan, and watch for more threats from beyond the stars, like Kagaya herself. Like his brother, Hamura had Six Paths chakra, and this allowed him to manifest a higher form of the Byakugan, the Tensigan. Wait, what? The Byakugan also has an evolution? Niji asked, sounding visibly agitated, a far cry from his usual stoicism. How is that our clan isn't aware of such a thing? Such knowledge had to be kept a secret for the safety of your clan, until the time was right. If you let me finish my story, I'm sure you'll understand, Takuya replied, a little annoyed at the constant interruptions. Like his brother, Hamura also had 2 children, though they were girls. His eldest was named Kalika, and the youngest was named Shiva. Like Indra and Ajura, Kalika and Shiva inherited the yin and yang halves of Hamura's 6 paths chakra respectively. That means that only Kalika developed a Byakugan, right? Hinata guessed. Nori shook her head. No. The Sharingan was a byproduct of the 6 paths chakra. The Byakugan, however, is something Kaguya already possessed before eating the divine fruit, and both of Hamura's daughters inherited it. The yin half enhanced Kailika's Byakugan, while the yang half boosted the power of Shiva's chakra as a whole. Their descendants inherited these powers as well. Why Hagoromo developed a Rinnegan instead of a Byakugan, is something we have no answer for. Exactly, Takuya agreed. Like Hagoromo, when Hamura's life came to an end, he had to choose an heir to lead the Otsutsuki clan. His choice was Kalika, and before dying, he transferred his chakra into her, allowing her to develop the Tenseigan, something Kalika herself also did with her own heir once her life came to an end. And thus, the Tenseigan became the symbol of the leader of the Otsutsuki clan. Eventually, the Otsutsuki clan was reorganized into 2 groups, the main family, composed by the leader and their close family members, which ruled over the clan, and the branch family, composed by pretty much everybody else, including Shiva's descendants. However, tensions began to rise, as every Gear nation passed. As they kept watch over the earth, they saw how Hagoromo's gift of Ninshu was perverted into ninjutsu, and used as a weapon to wage countless wars. Branch family members believed that they should do something about it, but the main family refused to interfere. But despite their superior numbers, they couldn't change anything since they couldn't match the power of the Tenseigan. And thus, the branch family started to work on a weapon that would equate the Tenseigan in power. Once said weapon was finished, they declared war on the main family, which were then crushed. The then current Otsutsuki clan head was killed before he could pass on his 6 paths chakra. The branch house members, which possessed the yang half of the 6 paths chakra, seek to obtain the yin-enhanced Byakugan from the main house. However, they found an obstacle they were unable to overcome, the caged bird seal. Once again, Niji was taken aback. Wait a minute. The main family wore that seal, he incredulously asked. Yes. Its original purpose was to make sure no main house Byakugan ever fell into the branch house, so they wouldn't be able to obtain the Tenseigan. That way, when a main family member died, their Byakugan would be destroyed with them. And they made sure they weren't captured alive, Takuya explained. Now, the ensuing war decimated both families, and the few main house members managed to escape the moon and reach Earth, with several branch house members they took prisoner. Their original plan was to force said branch house members to transfer their chakra into the current heir, so a new Tenseigan could be created, but in the end, they decided against it, since there was the problem of the branch house family's superweapon, and thus, decided that a new beginning was in order. The Otsutsuki survivors realized that they had to cut all ties to their past if they hoped to escape the branch house's purge, and have a chance to regroup. The first thing they did was to change their clan name to Hyuga, which as you know is a reference to the sun, to hide their ties to the moon. But that wouldn't be enough. The newer generations had to forget about their past entirely so they wouldn't become targets, but doing so would imply to destroy all the knowledge they had accumulated during the centuries. And thus, a solution was devised. The first Hyuga clan had created the Order of the Moon Acolytes, which would safekeep all the Otsutsuki knowledge, as well as the yang half of the 6 paths chakra they managed to extract from the captured branch house members. The Hyuga clan would continue with the main house/branch house division, albeit with a single, but meaningful change. the caged bird seal would be carried by the branch house members, and it would be modified so main house members could inflict great pain upon them with a single hand seal. That way, a new uprising could be averted. From that point onwards, the Hyuga became a nomadic clan that traveled the world, until less than a century ago, when they joined Konoha, Takuya said. Let's say that made our mission to keep track of your clan considerably easier. As for ourselves, our secret order thrived in the shadows, waiting for the right moment until a new Tenseigan could be created again. And that momentous now? Hinata asked. Yes. We knew that the Otsutsuki clan that remained on the moon slowly declined, and hoped that the clan would die out, and thus the problem would solve itself, and a new Tenseigan wouldn't be necessary, Nori told them. But even if the Otsutsuki clan is reduced to a single member, said member is still in possession of that superweapon, and is planning to use it to finish what his ancestors started so long ago. And after the Hyuga are gone, the rest of the world will follow suit. And you want Hinataheim to be that bearer, right? Naruto asked. He didn't need them to reply. But why me? Why not Nijinizan? Hinata protested. He's much stronger than I am. The Tenseigan would be better in his power than in mine. Niji-sama would be a fine candidate, but unfortunately, the new caged bird seal might be a danger for the process, Nori countered, shaking her head. She then turned at Niji with an apologetic expression. Sorry, Niji-sama, but the stakes are too high to take such risk. It's okay. It's not a power I desired to begin with, Niji replied, letting out a weary sigh. While he spoke the truth, he was upset that that seal had robbed him of such chance to begin with. Besides, it's obvious that Hinata-sama was fated to have this power bequeathed to her. If it's as urgent as you say, then I'll do it, Hinata stated, albeit some insecurity could be noticed in her voice. What should I do? Follow us, Takuya said as he stood up. He went to the other end of the temple, and moved a candelabra to the side. It produced a clicking noise, instantly opening a secret door on that wall, leading to a dark and narrow passageway. Wordlessly, the high priest walked in, and everybody else followed in. After a few minutes, they finally emerged from the other side of the passageway, into a different chamber. Like the main instance, there was a hole in the ceiling that allowed light to illuminate the place. Even if the sun was no longer in the sky, the moon took its place. The only thing worth noting in the chamber was a rather large pool of water, which reflected the moonlight. What is this place? Hinata asked. This is what we call the moon well, Nori began. Before I explain any further, Hinata-sama, Niji-sama, would you kindly check the water with your Byakugan? The two Hyuga complied, and when they did so, Hinata gasped. Niji's reaction was far more subdued, but couldn't completely hide his surprise. The water is teeming with chakra. Hinata noted. Takuya nodded. Yes. The yang half of the six paths chakra. Anyone who will enter this pool and does not possess at least either half of six paths chakra will have their own chakra drained and die. However, if somebody who does enter this pool, they will absorb the chakra of the water. Hinata-sama, you now must enter the pool. When your inherent yin half chakra mixes with the yang half of the pool, they will merge into six paths chakra, and your Byakugan will become a Tenseigan. Nori instructed the Hyuga to do so. Wait, what if you're wrong? What if Hinata doesn't have that kind of chakra and she dies? Naruto worriedly asked. I understand your doubts, Naruto-san, but you must understand the importance of this. If we weren't sure Hinata-sama wouldn't survive the process, we wouldn't have asked her to do it, Nori replied. Okay, I'll do it, Hinata stated, sounding now more determined. If this power is necessary to face our future enemies, and I'm the only one who can bear it, I'll take it then. Good, Nori said in approval. Niji-sama, watch over her with your Byakugan to make sure that the process happens as it should. Niji nodded, and kept his bloodline limit activated. Taking a deep breath, Hinata entered the pool. Contrary to what she was expecting, she didn't feel anything when her skin touched the water, other a bit of cold. She walked to the center of the pool, where the water covered up to her waist, and waited for something to happen. "So what do I do now?" Hinata asked. But before anybody had the chance to answer, the pool's water surface erupted into a massive wall of purple flames, engulfing Hinata. "Eh!" Hinata screamed from behind the fire. "Hinata!" Naruto yelled, as he dashed towards the pool, before he was stopped by Takuya. "No! Don't do it! Not only will you interrupt the process, but you'll die," Takuya urged, as he struggled to contain the blonde. "Get out of my way. Hinata needs my help," Naruto said, before finally pushing the man aside. "Naruto, stop," Neji calmly said. "Huh? Hinata-sama's in no danger," Neji stated, a bit in awe. "In fact, the chakra of the pool is being drained into her body. Finally. After so many generations a new sage of the moon will be born," Nori said in awe and expectation. Somewhere beyond time and space, when Hinata opened her eyes, she was no longer in that underground pool illuminated by the moonlight. She found herself in the middle of what appeared to be an ancient palace. "Hello, Byakugan princess. I've been waiting for you," an elderly male voice said. Hinata turned around, and saw an old man looking at her. Said old man was dressed in a white robe similar to that worn by Takuya. The man had pale white skin and light gray hair. 2 small horns grew from his forehead. 8 black spheres the size of grapefruits floated behind his back on a circle. But the man's trait that drew Hinata's attention the most were his eyes. His eyes were light blue, with dark blue pupils, and glowing white floral patterns that overlapped with each other that slowly spun around the pupil. A realization of who this man was dawned upon her with the force of a giant sledgehammer. You are," Hinata stammered in shock. "My name is Hamura Otsutsuki." "Nice to finally meet you, Hinata Hyuga," Hamura courtly greeted her. "There's much we need to talk about." "Hamura Otsutsuki," Hinata dumbly repeated, as her brain was trying, and failing, to understand that she was talking not so much to a living legend as much as a living myth. If he was living to begin with. "Yes. That, I am," Hamura replied. "And if you're able to talk to me it's because you, my descendant, managed to form 6 paths chakra inside you. Must say, it feels nice being able to talk to somebody else again after so many centuries of quietude." Are you alive?" Hinata fearfully asked. You could say that I am, but in the same way, I'm not," Hamura answered. Noticing Hinata's growing confusion, he added, "I know those 2 concepts are hard to reconcile. While my body stopped working a long time ago, my essence is permanently tied to the kind of chakra that now courses through your body." Hinata said, not fully understanding it, but deciding to let the issue go, since it wouldn't lead anywhere. "Tell me, Hinata Hyuga, what do you know about the history of our common family?" Hamura asked. Hinata nodded, and told Hamura an abridged version of what Nori and Takuya had told her and the others a few moments ago, culminating with the visit to the moonwell. "Good, that will save us an explanation," Hamura satisfyingly said. "Though you'd understand that, with this new power, you'll have to carry on several duties." "I do, but I have a question," Hinata replied. "Why me? What did I do to deserve this power?" Hamura smirked a little. "Why the self-doubt? Do you find yourself unworthy of it? I think there may be others more suited to wield this power than I am." "While I came a long way, imnit strong," Hinata admitted. "Me an injit is okay for me to just have this power handed to me? Aren't others who deserve it more than I do? Hinata, tell me. If you had a great power, what would you do with it?" Hamura asked. Hinata felt a bit slighted that Hamura had ignored her woe, but she decided it was for the best to answer his question. I'd do what I've always done. Use it to help others, to the best of my ability. I would also try to not get lost in that power either. After all, Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, Hinata told him. Then there you have it. You're a good person, therefore this power will be good in your hands, Hamura casually said. You can't be serious, Hinata replied, a bit taken aback. I'm sure a lot of people think the same way I do. And even then, I might be just saying this but deep down think otherwise. Power makes people change. Indeed. My brother and I were painfully aware of that, Hamura interjected. We could have taken our mother's place, and rule over humanity forever. But her example was impossible to forget. That's why we try to use our powers as little as possible, and try to live as any normal human would, even if we were far from normal. Our only regrets were not being able to do more with the time we had. Unfortunately, our descendants didn't live during her reign, and soon they forgot. Yes. Takuya-san and Nori-san told us how humanity used ninjutsu to wage wars, Hinata added. And still does. Hamura nodded. Yes, they did a good job preserving history and keeping secrets safe, didn't they? But even somebody as efficient as the Moon Acolytes make mistakes, and there were historic details that escaped them. Yes. They weren't aware of the current Rinnegan bearer, Hinata replied. Hamura nodded. Indeed. Feeling my brother's chakra among the living after such a long time was surprising, to say the least. Sadly, I can't say I'm happy with the event, given the way its current bearer is using my brother's power. But that wasn't what I was referring to. Huh. The part in which the last main house heir arrived to Earth, formed the Order of the Moon Acolytes and changed the Otsutsuki into the Hyuga clan. You see, this man did manage to awaken the Tensigan, and was planning to use it to continue the fight against the branch family, Hamura revealed. He did? Hinata asked in shock. And what changed his mind? I did, Hamura told her. Just like you're talking with me right now, I met this young man the moment he awakened the Tensigan. I had to told him that the bloodshed had to stop, that this wasn't the way. I don't like being authoritarian, but I was glad that my identity alone was all that I needed to convince him to drop the war. And what would have you do if he didn't obey you? Hinata asked, a little curious. Nothing, Hamura flatly stated. Nothing? What did you expect me to do? Like I told you before, I'm dead. My power no longer belongs to me, Hamura explained. We old people may be able to guide and offer advice, but in the end, the younger generation must follow their own path and take their own decisions. All we can do is to have faith in that they will make the right choices. I see, Hinata said. I told him that the Otsutsuki clan had to start anew. That's why he renamed it Hyuga. As for the Tensigan, I told him that only somebody with a kind soul and an emphatic heart would be worthy of the Tensigan. The Otsutsuki clan was too blinded by their own power, and needed a better leader, somebody who would remind them of my brother's teachings. So I foretold a Byakugan prince or princess, that would lead the Otsutsuki clan to a new golden age. And as I hoped, said princess was born 15 years ago, Hinata. As the Moon Acolytes kept watch over your clan, they realized you were the person I was talking about, the one worthy enough to finally inherit my power after centuries of dormancy, Hamura explained. He stared at Hinata, and his rugged lips curved into a smile. Was this explanation enough? It was, Hamura-sama. Even if I can't help but feel overwhelmed at both this power and the responsibility it entails, I'll do my best to use it correctly, Hinata solemnly stated. That's what I was hoping to hear, Hamura replied. Then I believe this conversation should reach its end. One last thing, though, some of my most misguided descendants also know about you. They will try to kill you or use you for their own purposes. Don't worry, Hamura-sama. I won't let such thing happen, Hinata assured the elderly man. One more thing, Hamura said, his expression growing worried. There is another Tensigan wielder. One who awakened it before you. I did try to convince him to follow the right PSTH, but I was unsuccessful. I sensed a great darkness clouding his judgment. In that case, I'll make sure that person sees the light, Hinata stated. Good. Then go, my child. We shall see each other again in the future, Hamura finally said, before everything turned black. When Hinata opened her eyes, she found herself back at the underground temple of the Moon Acolytes. The rest of the Konoha ninjas were looking at her. Oh good, she's waking up, a relieved Tenten said. Then, all of them gasped. Whoa, just look at that, is that? Huh? Hinata groaned, as she slowly sit up. Her head was throbbing, and was having a hard time thinking. Her encounter with Hamura Otsutsuki, which she was still trying to determine if it was a dream or not, occupied her mind. How long have I been out? Quite a few hours. You got us quite worried, Naruto said, chuckling a little. It's almost sunrise. Are you okay, Hinata-san? Haku asked. A bit tired, but fine otherwise, Hinata replied, before noticing the looks of both concern and curiosity that her friends were shooting at her. Why are you looking at me like that? Wordlessly, Tenten pulled out a compact mirror from a bag and handed it to Hinata. See it for yourself, Tenten cryptically said. Hinata did so, and soon her reaction echoed the one made by her comrades. Gone was her lavender-colored Byakugan, now replaced by the same eyes Hamura Otsutsuki had. Is this the Tensigen? Hinata unsurely asked. It is, Takuya confirmed. I have seen it on ancient pictures, but to see a real one myself, with my own very eyes, it feels unreal. How do you feel, Hinata-sama? Do you feel the power of the Tensigen? Nori excitedly asked. My head feels a bit lighter. But other than that, I feel just like always, the Hyuga admitted. It's okay. Your new powers may take some time to manifest, and you will take some time as well to master them, Nori reassured. That's why it is imperative to return to Konoha as soon as possible and begin your training. I already ordered our brothers and sisters to pack all our valuable goods and move to Konoha, Takuya added. Wait a minute. Are you planning to move to Konoha? As in, permanently? Guy asked. Yes, that's the intention, Takuya answered. We remained hidden to keep the secret of the Tensigen safe. But since a new Tensigen has awakened, our secrecy is no longer necessary. All what remains is to move all our knowledge to Konoha. Konoha is Hinata-sama's home, and as her followers, we shall go wherever she shall. I'm not sure what the Hokage will say about this, Guy replied. Don't worry. Hokage-sama will be more than happy to welcome us to your village, if only for the wealth of knowledge that we bring with us, Takuya said. It's a good thing Hokage-sama decided to send an additional team. I'm more than sure our enemies will try to attack us once we leave the safety of our shrine, Nori commented. Especially with all the treasures we carry with us. Wait a minute. You guys expect us to escort all of you all the way to Konoha? Naruto asked in disbelief. But there must be more than 100 people here. Not to mention all the things they want to take with them. Even with sealing scrolls, it will be quite the luggage, Haku added. You don't have to worry. We won't leave at the same time, but in small groups. The first one will be the one to carry our most valuable possessions, Takuya explained. Nori, you go with them. I'll remain here and supervise. Once the shrine has been completely evacuated, I'll leave with the last group. Again, if you're expecting more ninjas to come here and escort you, you're going to need more money to hire them, Guy reminded them. Don't worry, Guy-san. It's in Konoha's best interest for the treasures of this place to reach the village. They're worth more than any amount of money we could gather, Nori insisted. Hokage-sama will agree with me. If that's the case, then we should move as soon as possible. When will be the first group ready to leave? Guy asked. I'd say an hour. 2 hours at the very latest. In one case or another, then it won't be too long, Takuya replied. All right. Come on guys. Let's make sure all of them reach Konoha in one piece, and in record time. Guy enthusiastically yelled. Many hours later, the Konoha ninja, accompanied by Nori and a few other moon Skolites, were heading back towards Konoha. Unfortunately, due to the fact that this time around they were escorting more people, as well as a large cart loaded to the brim with scrolls of all sizes, meant that the journey back would go much, much slower. And that gave potential enemies better chances to attack. Now out of their sanctuary, the acolytes looked clearly distressed, even more than Nori when they escorted her the first time around. It was the fear of somebody who knew they had a lot of enemies, and for the first time, they were in a vulnerable position. And the Konoha ninjas could sense that fear, which in turn made them become tense. The Konoha ninjas positioned themselves in a surrounding formation towards the acolytes. Neji and Haku were leading the group. Neji had forbidden Haku and Tenten to stay close in a situation of potential danger, with Guy and Lee at each side of the cart, and Naruto, Hinata and Tenten in the back. Beside the acolytes, they also had the unsaid mission of protecting Hinata, given that awakening the Tensigen left her both drained and a bit disoriented. At first she was able to hide this, but as the hours passed, her condition became more apparent. Hinata-heim? Naruto asked. Hinata turned his gaze at him, and smiled weakly. Yes? How do you feel? Naruto asked, a little worried. I'm fine, Naruto-kun. Don't worry about me. Nori-san told me I'd take some time for my body to get used to this new power, Hinata reassured him. The sun will set soon. You'll be able to rest once we set up a camp for the night, Tenten reassured the Hyuga. Hinata wasn't just talking about her eyes. Back when she was uncautious, when checking her chakra network to see if she was okay, Neji realized that Hinata's chakra reserves had multiplied tenfold. Her chakra reserves were still a far cry from Naruto's, but even then her chakra pools were those of a strong jonin. Wonder if I'll have to go through all those chakra control exercises again, Hinata wondered. Because having my reserves expanded so suddenly is going to have side effects. Hey, maybe you've now enough chakra to use shadow clones. Trust me, once you get a taste, you'll wonder how can you live without them, Naruto excitedly assured her. Hinata giggled in return. I have a question, Tenten interjected. Can you still use the Byakugan? Given that your eyes look all different now. If the Uchihas can use both the normal Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan at will, I don't see how this could be different, Naruto stated, crossing his arms over his chest. I would think the same, but the Tensigen doesn't seem to be like the Sharingan or the Byakugan. It's permanently on, Tenten said, taking a closer look at Hinata's new eyes. That's a good question. Let me check. Hinata went through the same motions she did when she had her Byakugan. Her eyes briefly flashed blue. Yes. The Byakugan's still there. That's great. Naruto cheered. Plus there's the bonus of those creepy veins not appearing at the sides of your eyes anymore, Tenten added. And no offense to you, Neji or any of your clansmen, but whenever you guys use your Byakugan and those veins start to bulge, the Odango-haired girl said, as she shivered. None taken, Hinata replied. Though, I feel I can now expand my sight way beyond my previous limits. Let me try, and indeed, Hinata's Tensigen now increased her range so much, it was almost unreal. Looking around, she could see the forests, small mountains, rivers, lakes, towns of the land of tea. Then, rather than area, she focused on range, and looked to the north, to see if she could see Konoha, despite being hundreds of kilometers away, though she was unable to reach that far. Even the Tensigen had its limits. As she expanded her sight, something caught her eye. Leaves and branches moving. Focusing on the disturbance, Hinata could see that there were people jumping from one tree to another. It was clear that they were ninjas, but their chakra was off. Almost as if they weren't human, she couldn't tell from such a distance. But what was most worrying was that they were heading in their direction. They were walking into an ambush. Everybody, listen. Hinata shouted, drawing everybody's attention. There's a group of ninjas that are heading towards us from the north. While I'm not sure, I'd say they're enemies. Really? Niji asked, activating his Byakugan. I don't see anything. They're too far away yet, but they're heading in this direction. They'll be here in a few minutes, Hinata told them. What do we do? If we fight here, the acolytes might get hurt. Tenten pointed out. Not to mention that their valuable scrolls might get damaged. You're right, Tenten, we need to get the fight far from them, but at the same time, make sure they're safe. Guy stated. Naruto bit his thumb, and started making hand seals. Leave it to me, guys. Summoning Jutsu. Naruto slammed his hand into the ground, producing a large burst of smoke. Once the smoke dispelled, Naruto was standing on top of the same giant green toad he had summoned during the Battle of the Crimson Citadel. Greeting, Naruto. What can I do for you? Gamahiro asked. Gamahiro, I need you to take that cart, and all the guys dressed in white, and take them to Konoha as fast as you can. Can you do it? Naruto asked, before realizing that he had to give him info about their situation. We're in the land of tea, about 200 kilometers to the south of Konoha. You can count on me, Naruto, Gamahiro said, as he grabbed the cart with his giant, webby hands as if it were a mere toy. Nori, get your people on top of Gamahiro. You'll be safe with him. Naruto told her, before making a hand seal. 4 clones popped into existence. I'll also send 4 clones as additional escort just in case. The acolytes were naturally unsure about the idea of riding on a giant toad towards Konoha, but at the ninja's insistence, they climbed on his back. What do I do if I'm under attack? Gamahiro asked. Ignore them. Just focus on reaching Konoha with the acolytes and the cart of scrolls in one piece. My dad will know what to do next, Naruto instructed. Gamahiro nodded. Very well. Everybody, hold tight, we're leaving. And thus, the giant green toad disappeared into the sky with a mighty leap, accompanied by the screams of terror of the acolytes that were on his back, and weren't expecting such a sudden takeoff. After a few seconds, Gamahiro landed with a thud a couple kilometers to the north, before leaping into the sky again. The second time he landed, he was so far nobody bar Hinata could see him anymore. Summons can be useful for more than just fighting, you know? Naruto said, clearly proud of his idea. Hinata, are those ninjas still heading our way? Guy asked. Hinata nodded. Yes. Gamahiro passed them, but they didn't pay him any attention. Good. That means that we can go all out without having to worry about harming the acolytes, unexpectedly stated. What should we do? Should we wait for them here, or should we go and meet them? Haku asked. For the small chance that they may not be enemies, let them attack first, Guy replied. Naruto, Lee, with me. Haku, Tenten, move to the sides of the road each, and try to ambush them after they attack. Niji, Hinata, you'll cover our flanks and our backs. Yes sir, all ninja chorused in unison, as they moved to their respective positions. As expected, the ninjas turned hostile, as both Niji and Hinata could see their chakra spiking up. They were getting ready to attack. Here they come. Niji shouted. A barrage of golden energy projectiles rained upon the group, forcing them to scatter while barely avoiding the incoming explosions. The group dispersed, the attackers reveling themselves. They were wearing dark brown cloaks under black pants and black long shirts. Beside the hoods they were wearing, they also had their faces completely covered in bandages, making it impossible for the non-Hyugas to tell what they looked like, or how they were able to see in the first place. Their forearms and forelegs were also bandaged. They were wearing a dark blue headband with a yellow symbol of a crescent moon and a sun. One of the attackers, however, had his eyes exposed. He was also wearing entirely black clothes. He appeared to be the leader of this group. Soon the mysterious attackers and the Konoha ninjas engaged in close combat. While the former were much greater in number, the latter had more skill and power on their side. And the number parts wasn't going to last long. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto created a score of clones that quickly engaged the incoming enemies. However, the clones soon started to fall before the attackers' merciless skill. Damn, these guys are tough. My clones aren't even making a difference. Naruto complained, as he made another group of clones to replace the ones he lost. What's with these people? Neji asked, as he traded blows with two enemies. My Byakugan can't see past these guys. Mine can't either, Hinata replied, as she struck her lightning-enhanced palm on the chest of one of those masked ninjas, to little effect. And the gentle fist doesn't seem to do much damage. Then we'll use the strong fist. Lee hotly exclaimed, as he delivered a flurry of punches and kicks to another of the ambushers. However, half his hits were parried, dodged or blocked, and the other half didn't make much effect on them either, other than pushing back. What village do these guys come from? Tenten asked, noticing their headbands, as she cast a rain of explosive kunai upon a group of enemies. Do you recognize that symbol? Not at all. Naruto shouted, as he dodged several of those weird golden energy blasts. But then again, I don't know that many village symbols myself. Wherever they come, they've been well trained. Guy said, sending one of the enigmatic ninjas flying against a tree with a well-delivered kick. This is the kind of enemies I love to fight against. Those who give you a proper challenge, and a way to fan your flames of youth. Yash. You're so right, Guy-sensei. There's no point in taking pride in one's strength if one doesn't test that strength against worthy opponents. Lee cheerfully agreed as resumed the fight with an even more vigor. That's fine, but should focus on finishing this mission rather than enjoying it, Haku replied a bit annoyed, while making several hand seals. Ice release, certain kill ice spears. Haku slammed both hands into the ground, and multiple giant spikes of ice emerged from below, impaling some of the mysterious attackers. However, despite the direct hit, they were still moving, and struggled to get rid of the ice spears. That one got his heart pierced by my ice attack, yet he acts as if it is a minor inconvenience. Just what's with these guys, are they even human? Haku thought. Watch out. More enemies incoming. Neji warned. Like the first wave, the new batch of enemies joined the fight by showering the Konoha ninjas with a rain of golden chakra blasts, fired with acute accuracy as to only hit their enemies and not their allies. Where are these guys coming from? Neji asked, as he was on the verge of being overwhelmed. Heavenly spin. Neji turned into a spinning dome of chakra, successfully repelling the attackers, but failing to do any lasting damage. Should we start opening the gates? Tenten asked. Let's keep fighting. These guys must have some sort of weak point, Neji suggested, as he continued fighting. What the Konoha ninjas didn't realize is that a good chunk of the second wave of enemies moved to attack Hinata, and little by little, isolated her from the rest of the group. Both Hinata, and of course Naruto were the first ones to notice this. Go help Hinata. Naruto yelled, as he rushed towards her. She's their target. However, before Naruto could help his girlfriend, the leader of the attackers landed in front of him, brandishing a sword made of the same golden chakra the strange ninjas used to attack. That was a bad move, Naruto darkly said, as he extended his hand, creating a Rasengan. He then rushed towards the masked ninja, and slammed the destructive sphere forward. Rasengan. The enemy ninja used his golden chakra sword to parry Naruto's attack, and much to the blonde's shock, it managed to resist the impact. The Rasengan exploded, and all that energy was pushed back, which in turn violently pushed Naruto into the same direction. Okay, Naruto breathed out, as he pulled out his own wind blade, producing a blade of flame-like white energy the moment he channeled his chakra through it. Let's do it your way, Naruto said as he engaged the silent ninja in a sword-fighting duel. That meant that Hinata had to continue to struggle alone against the growing horde of enemies. Not helped by the fact that she was still lightheaded, and was having a hard time modeling chakra due to her sudden expansion of her chakra pool, leaving her mostly with taijutsu. I can't hold them like this much longer, Hinata breathed, taking a step back with each hit she dodged or parried, despite knowing that's what the enemies wanted. I need to push them back, maybe with a vacuum palm wall or a heavenly thunderstorm. Suddenly, as if to answer Hinata's distressed call, the Hyuga heiress felt an alien but pleasant energy forming inside her gut, a power unlike anything she had felt in her life. Ignoring reason and going with a gut feeling, Hinata spread her arms, and unleashed the power building inside of her. The air shimmered for a bit, before Hinata's body cast a powerful shockwave in every direction. The shockwave violently pushed the attackers away, some of them being painfully slammed against the nearby trees, producing a sickening crunch upon impact. However, the damage wasn't as bad as what it seemed, since they got back on their feet to keep fighting, even if some of them hobbled and had difficulty moving. What is this? The confused Bluenet thought. Is this the power of the six paths? What did Hinata do? Haku asked, after witnessing her powerful repulsion wave. No idea, but it's a good thing she learned to do that, Tenten said. Maybe is the power of those new eyes she has now. If that's the case, let's hope she finds more hidden powers that can help us turn this fight around, Haku replied. Naruto continued his fight against the lead enemy, trading blows, pushing back and forth, until his enemy made a mistake, delivering a swipe slower than intended. It wasn't a mistake big enough to capitalize unless you were an elite ninja. And fortunately for Naruto, he quickly took advantage of that. Moving aside, he delivered a swift vertical wipe that chopped off the hand holding the golden ball, followed by another quick strike to the neck, which separated his head from the rest of his body. The ninja fell to the ground, motionless, while Naruto smirked in victory. The blonde Jinchuriki then noticed something strange. Despite cutting first his hand and then his head, there was no blood pouring from the severed zones. Inspecting the body and the head a little further, Naruto realized what was wrong with them. The hell? This guy isn't even human. Naruto exclaimed, much to everybody else's surprise. It's some sort of puppet. What? Guy asked in shock. That can't be right. There are no guys pulling strings on them, and they can use chakra. Tenten protested, as she tried to hold back several of those mysterious beings. Well, whatever they are, they're not alive, and they're definitely not human. Naruto exclaimed, as he joined his girlfriend in fighting the group that was surrounding her. Try to destroy their heads. I managed to kill one of them by beheading him. With this new piece of information, the Konoha ninjas proceeded to adjust their tactics in dealing with them. I see. If they're not alive, then no wonder the gentle fist doesn't work with them. Even if they can somehow use chakra, nothing says that they must have a human chakra network, Niji inwardly realized. If that's the case, then we're going to need a little more brute force. Niji jumped back a few times, putting some distance between his enemies and himself, distance they quickly tried to bridge. But that moment was all the Hyuga needed. He crossed his arms in front of his face. Gate of opening, open. Niji spreaded his arms outwards, releasing a powerful burst of chakra, as a faint green glow surrounded his body. So, it's okay for us to use the gates now? Tenten asked. In light of the new information, yes, Niji told her. His hands started to shimmer as he gathered copious amounts of chakra on them. 8 trigrams, 16 exploding strikes. 2 strikes. 4 strikes. Niji's palm strikes produced powerful chakra explosions that made them impossible to block. Each strike managed to seriously damage, mutilate, or downright completely disable the alleged puppets. 8 strikes. 16 strikes. It seems that with just one gate opened, Niji is doing rather well against these enemies, Lee observed. Okay then, Lee, let's go. Tenten said, as she and Lee proceeded to imitate their teammate. Gate of opening, open. 10-10 and Lee joined their teammate, and with the additional boost provided by the first gate alone, they started to trash their enemies and turn the tide in their favor. The masked ninjas noticed this, however, and changed their strategy. Some of them jumped backwards, and formed a circle around the battle. In perfect synchronization, they formed a golden chakra sphere between their hands, but rather than toss it as soon as it appeared, the sphere kept expanding as they spread their hands. Once they reached the diameter of their arms completely spread, they tossed the energy balls forward at the same time. Impressive, not? Guy laughed, as he grabbed two of the puppet ninjas by their necks, and tossed them against a giant energy ball each, forcing them to prematurely explode. Naruto had the same idea, except he simply used several clones to absorb the impact. Neji, Lee and 10-10 opted to dodge them. Haku retreated to one of his demonic ice mirrors, while Hinata used her newly found kinetic powers to deflect a couple aside. This time, the ninja puppets opted for a different tactic. Half of them generated more giant-sized golden chakra spheres, while the other half bombarded the group with rapid fire of smaller blasts. Naruto, however, rushed towards the puppet ninjas while quickly deflecting their incoming blasts with his wind blade. When he reached hand-to-hand combat, Naruto hacked the puppet to pieces, before moving to the next. Their tactics overturned and their numbers decimated, the puppet ninjas opted to flee. Yeah, run away, you cowards. Next time, bring more of you, maybe that way you can be a little of a challenge. Naruto shouted to the retreating foes. Naruto-kun, they're puppets. They aren't going to react to your taunts, Haku told the blonde. I know. But it feels take that out of my chest, you know? Naruto replied, with a foxy grin. Is everybody okay? Guy asked. If yes, then we should try and catch up with the giant toad, before more enemies show up. Alright, everybody minus Hinata said in unison. The Hyuga heiress hadn't listened to Guy's command, and stared at the sky with an unreadable expression. The others took no time to notice this. Hinata-heim? Something's wrong? Naruto asked. Somebody's coming, Hinata said. She raised her hand, pointing at in the night sky, illuminated by a half-moon. Somebody with a really powerful chakra. Yes, I'm seeing him too, Neji agreed. He tensed even more. This chakra Hinata-sama, his chakra is very similar to yours. What does that mean? Naruto asked, not liking the sound of that. Soon, even those without a Byakugan could see a figure standing on a golden floating platform with red railings was floating towards them. Once he was close enough, they could finally see who this mysterious individual was, a young man with soft facial features, shaggy white hair, and very pale skin. He was wearing a white, high-collared kimono with a black obi, with a pale green sash tied at the right shoulder. There were several black magatamas tattooed on his bare collarbone. However, the man's most eye-catching features were his eyes. They were a pair of tensigen, just like Hinata's, except these ones glowed with a brighter gleam. Ah, the Byakugan princess. After so much time, it's great to finally see you in person. Allow me to introduce myself, my name is Tonari Otsutsuki, Tonari told Hinata, acting as if the rest of the group wasn't there. You have a tensigen too, Hinata said in a whisper. Then that means that he must also have 6 paths chakra, just like Hinata-sama, Neji observed. An enemy with such power was something not to be underestimated. Indeed. It's the power my family coveted. The power needed to destroy this corrupt world, and replace it with a better one, Tonari stated. Wait a minute, then you're the other Hamura-sama told me about. The one tainted by darkness. Hinata said in realization, as she instinctively took a step back, closer to Naruto. Tainted by darkness, he repeated. Oh no, my dear Hinata. Is this world the one consumed by darkness? I am the light that shall purify it. And what did you say about Hamura-sama? Hamura-sama talked to me when I awakened the Tensigen. He warned me about another with the same eyes I possess, Hinata warily replied. Tonari looked skeptical. You said Hamura-sama appeared to you? Curious. I did not receive such a vision when I awakened my Tensigen. It's the darkness of your heart that stopped him from reaching you, Hinata sharply replied. Hamura-sama is one of the most powerful beings who ever lived. Had such thing be true, he should have been able to reach me, darkness or not, Tonari insisted. Enough of that nonsense. What the hell do you want? Naruto shouted. A world of peace and justice, in which nobody has to suffer senselessly, was Tonari's reply, leaving Naruto a little flabbergasted. But I presume you were expecting a more short-term answer. That would be to take Hinata from this withering world, so she can take her rightful place in the next one. What? Naruto asked, outraged, as he defensively stood between Hinata and Tonari. Hinata is the prophesied Byakugan princess, a direct descendant of Hamura's eldest daughter, with a kind-souled and an emphatic heart, that will lead the Otsutsuki clan to a new golden age, Tonari explained. Hinata felt a chill running down her spine. Those were the very same words Hamura had used. That's why you must come with me. It's your destiny to join me in creating a new world devoid of wars, greed and misery, and a new lineage that will rule it once we're no longer here. Yes, it was me. But that's irrelevant now. Oh well, I believe it's not too late yet. You will see the light, even if I have to open your eyes by force, Tonari darkly said, as he made a hand motion. His floating platform elevated into the air, as another horde of puppet ninjas appeared out of nowhere, leaping into mid-air, as they summoned golden chakra orbs between their cupped hands. Another rain of fire awaited the Konoha ninjas, who took no time to scatter. Naruto, however, made the hand seal of his favored technique. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Another multitude of Naruto clones appeared from thin air. A good chunk of them were instantly destroyed by the initial barrage, but those who survived quickly went to engage the puppet ninjas. All but one of them. I bet he's the one controlling these puppets, somehow, Naruto guessed, as the clone grabbed him by an arm and started to spin. So if I take him out, his puppets will go down with him. After building enough momentum, the clone launched Naruto towards the white-haired man in the sky. As Naruto flew like a missile towards him, he extended both hands, a Rasengan forming in each one of them. In a few seconds, he would be in range to attack. You're dead. RA-. Tonari merely raised an open hand against him, and Naruto was hit by an extremely powerful kinetic blast, that not only negated all his momentum, but sent him flying backwards, falling several hundred meters behind them, among a bunch of trees. Naruto Kun. Hinata shouted in horror, before she turned her eyes at Tonari, casting him a bone-chilling glare. You will pay for hurting him. Somehow, I find that unlikely, Tonari replied, as he jumped off his floating platform, and slowly descended, as if he could somehow control the speed of his fall. Now, you have to come with me, Hinata. Never. Hinata replied, mimicking Tonari's earlier movement, and blasting him with a telekinetic push. Like with Naruto, Tonari was hurled backwards, but Tonari was able to resist the hit, and remained still in mid-air. You may have the same eyes as I do, but not only mine are more developed, but my skill with them is far superior to yours, Tonari boasted, though his voice remained calm. If you come with me, I can teach you how to use the power you now possess. Just imagine what we could do if we joined our forces. Sorry, but Hinata-sama said no. Niji's voice was heard, as Tonari was slammed by a white and brown blur, hurling him crashing against the ground. The branch house Hyuga landed beside Hinata, and quickly went to check her. Hinata-sama, are you okay? Why yes. Thank you, Nii-san, Hinata replied. That was a good hit, but I doubt it was enough to put him out of commission. Yes, I thought as much, Niji said, as he turned around. Like Hinata said, Tonari got back on his feet, and floated a few meters above the ground. "You're fast, Hyuga. Even with my Tensigen, I was unable to see you coming in time for me to react," Niji said, as he shook the dust from his robe. "However, you won't be able to land a hit like that a second time." Niji smirked in return. "Is that a challenge?" Gate of Life, open. As the third gate opened, Niji's green aura glowed even brighter, and a powerful wind started to blow from his body in all directions. The Hyuga prodigy then vanished. However, the moment he did that, Tonari raised another palm, and blasted Niji backwards with another telekinetic shockwave, when the Hyuga was centimeters away from hitting him. "That was close, I have to admit," Tonari smugly replied. "But my words were true. Now, Hinata, take a good look at the power of the Tensigen." Tonari clapped his hands together. The ground below their feet started to rumble, huge chunks of earth were pulled upwards, floating around the last Otsutsuki in a surreal manner. Once he decided he had Onoug ammunition, his hands formed a hand seal, and the chunks of earth and rock fell towards the two Hyugas, though mostly towards Niji. Rather than dodge them, the two Hyugas met the incoming rain of giant rocks. Lightning release, thunder palm. With a strike of her lightning-enhanced palms, Hinata shattered a large rock into a multitude of tiny pebbles. 8 trigrams, mountain crusher. Niji thrust both palms forwards, releasing a destructive vacuum wave that also shattered a couple rocks headed towards him into small shards, but the force of the attack also pushed those shards back to Tonari. With a dismissive hand wave, Tonari deflected the incoming shards sideways. "Not bad. Let's see how do you do against this," Tonari stated, making another hand seal. A few rocks floating around him instantly shattered into tiny, sharp pebbles. The pebbles started to spin in a circle around the area Niji and Hinata were in. "Let's see how well you do against an attack that comes from every direction." Tonari closed his hand into a fist, and the spinning pebbles rained upon the two Hyugas. They nodded to each other. Heavenly spin. The Hyuga cousins turned into a spinning blue chakra dome each, easily deflecting the rain of the stone bullets. "Impressive," Tonari conceded, sounding strangely pleased. "Besides your beauty, you're also really strong, Hinata. You'll make a great wife." "I know. I won't be your wife, though," Hinata said, panting. Then, she suddenly fell on her knees, clutched her head, and screamed. "Aya! Hinata-sama!" Niji panicked, and grabbed her by her shoulder. She shot Tonari a murderous glare. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing," the Otsutsuki nonchalantly replied. "Those migraines are a side effect of the Tensigen developing. They will stop once it reaches full maturity. Anyway, I think I wasted enough time as it is." Tonari raised her hand, and Hinata was telekinetically pulled towards him. "I won't let you!" Niji shouted, as he blitzed towards the white-haired man. But Tonari already predicted this, and had already raised his other hand to blast Niji backwards with a telekinetic pulse. "You think you can keep me away from my bride?" Tonari asked. His politeness was replaced by condescension. "For somebody with these eyes, you're nothing but ants. Let Hinata be where she clearly belongs." Manipulated tools, rain of fire. Multiple kunai rained upon Tonari, who forced him to release Hinata in order to evade them. But much to his shock, he realized that the kunai had explosive notes attached to them. "Disappear," Tenten said, as she triggered all the explosives at once. Using a kinetic blast, Tonari launched himself into the air, barely avoiding the chain of explosions that, even if they wouldn't have killed him, would have left serious injuries. Tonari panted, seeing how close he was of getting caught in that ambush. "That was close, huh?" Konoha whirlwind. 2 green blurs appeared besides Tonari, both delivering a powerful kick to his face. Tonari's reflexes, however, were fast enough to let him see Guy and Lee's double-teaming him, and raised his arms to block the attacks. Even then, the kicks packed so much power, he felt they left his arms on the verge of breaking. "Don't dare to touch me!" Tonari yelled, as he blasted Guy and Lee away with a repulsive shockwave. Wind release, Raisin Shuriken. A loud, high-pitched whirring noise alerted the Otsutsuki of a chakra shuriken flying towards him. He didn't need the Tensigen to know that if he let that jutsu hit him, he would be as good as gone. Raising his hands, he projected the most powerful telekinetic wave he could muster, but much to his shock, while he was able to stop the shurikens from going forward, he was unable to push it backwards, until it finally burst into a massive wind explosion, which hurled the Otsutsuki backwards, tumbling towards the ground. What? What kind of power is that? With these eyes, there's nothing that could be able to challenge me. Tonari angrily thought, as he hit the ground. You won't be able to stop the next one, a voice Tonari Rikenjized said, as the same infernal high-pitched were drilled his ears. As he got back on his feet, Tonari saw that Naruto was back. For a reason he failed to grasp, his chakra had become incredibly more potent. He also noticed that his previously blue eyes were now yellow, and had some orange pigmentation around them. Naruto and a clone were now forming another of those destructive chakra shuriken. It seems these people are far stronger than they let on. With my undeveloped Tensigen, my chances are low, Tonari regretfully thought. You're really strong, Naruto. No wonder Obito-sama failed to capture you so far. Obito-sama? Are you with Akatsuki? Naruto asked, as he prepared his Raisin Shuriken. Suddenly, a realization dawned upon him. Wait a minute. That moment of distraction was all what Tonari needed. Quickly raising his hands, he sent another kinetic pulse that knocked the Konoha ninja on their backs. Wasting no second, he turned around, and flew towards his platform, still floating high in the air. Once he reached it, he flew away, disappearing into the night of the sky. As everybody got on their back, they looked around to see if the enemies have truly fled, and were they now safe. Relatively speaking. Just what was all that about? A slightly confused Tenten asked. Guys, I think I have an idea of what's going on, Naruto replied. As everybody got on their back, they looked around to see if the enemies have truly fled, and were they now safe. Relatively speaking. Just what was all that about? A slightly confused Tenten asked. Guys, I think I have an idea of what's going on, Naruto replied. I'm not 100% sure, but that guy might be under Obito's mind control. Are you sure? If he was working for Akatsuki, he'd be more interesting in you than in Hinata-sama, Niji pointed out. You assume that the tailed beasts are Akatsuki's only target, my young student, Guy intervened. Who says that they aren't after other sources of power, such as Hinata's new eyes? Just great, Naruto said, letting out an annoyed snort. As if I wasn't worried about Akatsuki going after me alone, they're not after my girlfriend. Just great. There was a moment of silence, as the group of 7 processes both Naruto's words, and what they entailed. So what do we do now? Should we go back to the village, or should we rest and continue at morning? Haku asked. For the time being, let's rest. I'm sure all of us were already tired before this battle even began. By now, Naruto's toad should be close to Konoha, if he hasn't arrived there already. Let's set a campsite, and we'll continue our journey back tomorrow, Guy decided. But before we do, let's see if we can salvage any of those ninja puppets that attacked us earlier. Knowing them will make us better prepared next time we have to face them. Everybody nodded. While Niji and Tenten went to retrieve and store the remaining puppets, the rest of the group went to find a good place to pass the night. Next day, said decision turned out to be the most sound. After a good night of sleep, the 7 Konoha ninjas were now properly rested and full of energy, even Hinata, and were ready to resume their way back to their home. And just by noon, the Konoha ninjas triumphantly returned to their village. A quick talk with the entrance guards told them that the moon acolytes and all the scrolls they were carrying safely arrived last night, on the back of a giant toad. While the first thing they wanted to do was to go home and rest, or tell their loved ones about the mission, duty came first, and they had to go to the Hokage's tower, in order to give Jiraiya the report on how the mission went. One of the first things Jiraiya noticed was Hinata's new eyes. "That's the Tenseigan?" the Hokage asked. Hinata nodded. "And what does it do?" "So far, it allows me to control attractive and repulsive forces," Hinata began. She moved her hand, and pulled a pen that was in the table to it. She then made it float above her palm. "Though I believe that there may be more to the Tenseigan than this." "I think so, if the explanation Nori gave me is of any cue," Jiraiya replied. "She pretty much stated it was a Dojutsu on par with the Rinnegan." "Wait, Nori told you about the Tenseigan?" Naruto asked. "Of course. That's why I allowed this mission to begin with. If there was a chance that one of our ninjas could awaken a power that can give us an edge against the Akatsuki, I wasn't going to let that chance go," Jiraiya explained Naruto, his tone uncharacteristically serious. "Of course, I took some precautions. That's why I sent Team Guy with you as an additional escort. Especially since you guys are one teammate down. Which was a good thing, in hindsight," Tenten added. "During our journey back, we were attacked by a mostly unyouthful individual claiming to be an Otsutsuki who also possessed a Tenseigan," Lee spoke. "But fortunately, Tenseigan or not, our flames of youth burned too bright for him to beat us. The man commanded an army of puppets. However, unlike those used by Suna ninjas, they were autonomous and could use chakra," Tenten said, as she placed a couple scrolls on the Hokage's desk. "Here are the ones we managed to retrieve." "That sounds like our chakra golems," Jiraiya observed, as he took the storage scrolls and placed them inside a drawer on his desk. "In a way, yes, but," Naruto began, struggling to find the proper words. "But they could fool you into mistaking them for actual humans, you know? I only realized that they weren't made of flesh and blood when I wounded one, but blood didn't come out. I'd say the craftsmanship and technology behind such puppets is superior to those of the Uzumaki golems," Hinata interjected. "Though thankfully, they are unable to absorb chakra, and are nowhere near as resistant or stout. Though those are indeed troubling news if the enemy counts with such assets," Jiraiya replied. "I'll send a letter to Suna so they can send some of their puppeteer ninjas here and help us studying these puppets. By the way, may I ask where are Nori and the other moon acolytes now?" Niji asked. "They requested to stay at the Hyuga state as long as they remain in Konoha. I told them to talk with the leader of the clan to see if they were allowed to do that. If you want to see them, they will be there," Jiraiya replied. "By the way, Hokage-sama, those aren't the only acolytes that requested to be escorted here. Almost 100 more remain in their old hideout, as well as a good chunk of scrolls, books and other knowledge they claim to be of importance for both the Hyuga clan and the village as a whole," Guy informed him. Jiraiya nodded. "Understood. I'll send several teams to escort the rest of the moon acolytes. After this, you guys deserve some little rest." "Thank you, Hokage-sama," Tenten gratefully replied. "If there's nothing left to discuss, then you're dismissed," the Hokage finally said. The 7 ninjas nodded, and left the office. As they exited the Hokage's tower, the now dismissed ninjas went on their separate ways to enjoy their leisure time until they were summoned again for another mission. Hinata then walked towards Naruto, before the blonde could leave. "Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked. "Yes, Hinata-heim?" Naruto replied to his girlfriend with his best smile. Hinata looked away, and started to twiddle with her fingers. Naruto noted it was something she hadn't done in ages. In fact, he couldn't remember when was the last time she did that. Definitely sometime before they became boyfriend and girlfriend. "There's something I want to ask you," Hinata said, almost in a whisper. Naruto guessed it had to be something big for such a regression in her behavior. He gave her a reassuring smile. "You know you can ask me anything. I was going home and, well, me clan is going to see my new eyes. And I'll have to break them the news about what Nori-san told you if she didn't do it already, Hinata exhaled. Would you like to come with me? I don't think I can do this alone. Of course, Naruto said, taking her hand. You don't even need to ask. Hinata smiled back. Thank you. Hyuga compound. As the couple approached the compound's gate, they were greeted by a branch house member that was on guard duty that day. He smiled upon seeing the two teens closing by. Hinata-sama, Naruto-san, welcome back to the Wo. Not even the Hyuga's legendary stoicism was able to mask the clansman's reaction to their heiress' new eyes. Hinata-sama. Yes, she has new eyes, she will explain it right now. Can you go and tell her mother that we're here? Naruto asked, midly annoyed, as he rolled his eyes. Right away, Naruto-san, the guard said, before heading inside the compound, with Naruto and Hinata following him at a slower pace. To try not to draw attention to her, Hinata kept her eyes looking down, and kept them half closed, and relied on Naruto to guide her. As they walked, the blonde noticed a couple of moon acolytes walking around the compound. It seems that Hikari had allowed them to stay with the Hyuga for the time being. He then saw the guard that had greeted them at the entrance walking towards him once again. Hikari-sama is waiting for you in main living room, the guard informed them. Nori-san is currently with her. Do you want to see your mother in private? Thank you. And no, it's okay. Nori-san already knows what I'm going to show her, Hinata replied, as she and Naruto walked in. Very well then. Hinata-sama, the guard made a polite bow before returning to his assigned post. After a minute or so, they arrived at the main living room. And just as the guard said, both Hikari and Nori were there, talking about something, before the duo walked in. Hikari immediately smiled, and walked to greet her daughter and probably future son-in-law. Hinata. Naruto. So good to see you're back. Nori-san was telling me about Dash. Hinata then raised her eyes to meet her mother's, and the older woman was stopped in her tracks, and gasped loudly, covering her mouth with her hands. Hi Hinata, Hikari mumbled, losing her composure for the first time in years. She took a better look at her daughter's face. Your eyes, I know, mother. Let's sit, there is much we need to talk, Hinata said, motioning to the nearby couches. Yes, Nori-san has been telling me Dash. Trust me, Hikari-sama, I barely told you anything, Nori interjected. Listen to Hinata-sama. I'm sure that whatever she has to say, it will be mostly revealing. But before we begin, can you tell me where is Hanabi-chan? Hinata asked. I think she should be training with her team at their usual training ground, Hikari replied. Hinata turned at her boyfriend. Naruto-kun, do you mind fetching Hanabi-chan and taking her here? Tell her it's an important issue. Of course. I'll be back with her before you realize. Naruto helpfully said as he rushed out of the living room. I should be able to give you a rundown of the events of the past day by the time Naruto returns with Hanabi-chan, Hinata stated. And thus, Hinata began her tale, with Nori adding something at times, or correcting Hinata when she stated something wrong, how the mission began, their arrival to the sanctuary, what they learned about the Sage of the Six Paths, his brother, the Senju, Uchiha, Uzumaki and Hyuga, Hinata meeting Hamura himself and awakening the Tenseigan, and finally, the confrontation with Tonari, another Tenseigan wielder, with all what it entailed. When Hinata was finished, Hikari was speechless. There were so many things to process, so many things she thought were nothing but myths and old wife tales. So, the Sage of the Six Paths is real, Hikari said, chuckling. Somehow, that's the least ludicrous part of this story. And we're his younger brother's descendants. Hinata emphasized. And the Tenseiganto think that those people I heard about were actually right, Hikari added, mostly to herself. You knew about the Tenseigan, mother? Hinata asked, her curiosity piquing a bit. I did, but I didn't give it much importance. I thought it was a myth, like the Sage of the Six Paths, Hikari replied. There were some members of our clan who tried to awaken it, some went so far they even lost their lives. One of your great-uncles in particular, he dedicated most of his life to try to achieve it. Guess that, wherever he is now, he's possibly laughing while saying something like, "Who is the crazy old man now?" And most importantly the caged bird seal, and the main house/branch house split, Hinata added. Now we know where do they come from. Indeed. I never liked the way the clan was divided, and hearing its origins didn't make me like it much more, Hikari admitted. Then why don't we change it? Hinata asked her mother. You're the clan head. Being the clan head doesn't mean that I can do whatever I want, Hikari regretfully told Hinata. However, I think we might have a chance now that I'm back. Naruto happily chimed in. And I brought Hanabi with me. Naruto said that Ne-chan had something important to tell me, Hanabi said, as her eyes darted towards her older sister. Naturally, she noticed Hinata's Tenseigan, and her reaction mirrored those of her clansmen. Whoa! What the hell happened to your eyes? Well, maybe a bit more brusque than her clansmen. Don't worry Hanabi-chan, you'll find out soon, Hinata gently said as she walked towards her. Now, give me your hands, please. Okay? Hanabi unsurely replied, and complied. Hinata grabbed her hands, and both sisters were suddenly engulfed by an intense lavender aura, as Hanabi felt a huge power invading her body. Whoa! Don't worry, Hanabi-chan. This will hurt a bit at first, but it's for the better, Hinata said, in an almost regretting tone. Hinata-heim? What are you doing? Naruto asked, midly concerned. Hikari-sama, what is she doing? A distressed Nori asked, though she was already fearing the answer. Byakugan. Hikari's bloodline limit came to life. She's transferring her 6 paths chakra into Hanabi. No! Nori shouted, as she rushed towards Hinata and tried to forcefully separate her from Hanabi. Hinata-sama, you have to stop. Seeing the urgency in the priestess' tone, Hinata stopped the flow of chakra. Hanabi moaned a little, before fainting into her older sister's arms. Why did you stop me? What's wrong? Hinata asked. Hinata-sama, you can't do that. The 6-path chakra in your body is what powers the Tenseigan. The less you have, the weaker it is. Nori explained, still shaken. You didn't tell me this before, Hinata noted. Because I never thought that you'd do something like that. Why did you do something like that? Nori loudly asked. Hinata's face hardened, and fixed a determined glare on the priestess. Why, you ask? After hearing the true history of how our clan came to be, why not, would be a better question. The Otsutsuki clan kept the power of the Tenseigan for themselves, and look what happened. And our clan then continued those foolish practices. No, I won't hog this power all to myself. Besides, you said that only an Hyuga with a kind heart and an emphatic soul is worthy of the Tenseigan, and I like to think that Hanabi-chan fits those qualities. Besides, no one ever said that there can only be one Tenseigan wielder. Yes, but sharing that power dilutes it. You'll need the Tenseigan at its full power to face the enemies that are to come, Nori insisted. Can't my 6-path chakra regenerate, like normal chakra does? Hinata asked. Yes, but it will take some time, Nori replied. How long? I couldn't tell. What you just did had no precedence. Weeks, months, years, who knows, Nori replied, letting out a sigh. I will find a way to accelerate the 6 paths chakra regeneration speed, then, Hinata firmly stated. But like I said before, there's no way I'm going to let our clan to continue with the same traditions that led it to its doom once. That's very mature of you, Hinata, Hikari praised. You know, all these revelations made me think. Given what Nori-san said about the wielder of the Tenseigan being the head of the Otsutsuki clan, I think it may be the time for me to step down and let you take your place as the clan head. What? Hinata blubbered. That's awesome. Naruto piped in. I understand it may feel overwhelming right now. You're still young, and had this strange power thrusted upon you. But deep down, I believe it's the right choice to do, Hikari explained. She then grabbed Hinata's hand, and smiled. And you won't be alone. You will have me to help you and guide you if you feel lost or don't know what to do. Thank you, Mother. I promise I'll do my best, Hinata assured Hikari. Well, I think we should also start your training with the Tenseigan as soon as possible. My group alone brought plenty of books and scrolls that you will have to study in order to master the new power you now possess, Hinata-sama, Nori interjected. She then took a look at the unconscious Hanabi, resting on the couch, unconscious. And Hanabi-sama as well, it seems. We better wait until she wakes up. That way we can start the two of them at once, Hinata suggested. Nori nodded. I see no issue with that. Meanwhile, I'll start making preparations for Hinata's announcement as the new clan head, Hikari replied. I'll make sure the whole clan is gathered here for the afternoon. I'll be here as well to see such a moment, Naruto promised. In the meantime, I should go see the Uchihas. They should know all the things pertaining their clan's history. Alright then, see you later, Naruto-kun. Hikari saw Naruto off. Shisui and Shizen's apartment, a few hours later. Just like Naruto told Hinata, after leaving the Hyuga compound, he headed directly towards Shizun and Shisui's apartment, and had them gather the rest of the clan, which were just Sasuke and Itachi, before Naruto could tell them about the mission. All of them gathered in the living room. Shiro, however, was playing with some toys, isolated from the others by a baby fence, not that the baby minded being alone, while a sleeping Shizuka rested on her mother's arms. Just like Hinata before him, Naruto gave the Uchihas a quick rundown on how their mission went, and all they learned about the Sage of the Six Paths and his family, but focused mostly on the part with Indra and Azura, the origins of the Sharingan, and Indra's curse of hatred. The Uchihas listened intently, and didn't open their mouth until Naruto was finished, not even to ask questions. So that's pretty much everything, Naruto finished. Well, technically not everything. There's a bunch of stuff about the Hyugas, but I thought that you guys wouldn't find that interesting. There was a moment of silence, before anybody broke it to speak. Said person was Sasuke. The Uchiha is one of the most powerful clan to ever lived. But to think that we are descendants of the Sage of the Six Paths himself, Sasuke said, his awe being hidden by his usual low-key tone. The fact that the Sage is an actual thing as opposed to a myth is just as amazing, Shisui followed. Guess that those who said that the Uchiha is a clan cursed by hatred had no idea how right they were, Itachi sourly said. The part about Indra's curse was troubling, to say the least. Do you think that curse is real? Shizen asked, as she looked apprehensively at both her sleeping daughter and playing son, worried for their future. I'm not somebody who believes in curses, but that would explain a lot of things, Itachi regretfully admitted. But we allegedly now have tangible proof of the Sage of the Six Paths' existence, so the curse might as well be real. Are you thinking that it might be the responsible of pushing our clansmen into that suicidal coup? Sasuke asked. Again, it's a possibility, one more probable than I'd like to admit, Itachi replied. I can't help but wonder what kind of extent does this curse has over our very actions. Come on guys, don't get so gloom. Even if there's a curse out there, you guys doesn't seem to be ruled by it or anything. Naruto vehemently countered. He looked at Itachi and Shisui. When the clan rebelled, you guys worked to protect Konoha, he then turned at Sasuke. And Sasuke, if it wasn't for you, I'd be dead right now, and Akatsuki would have the 9 tails in their power. That has to count for something, right? Naruto's unbridled optimism made Itachi smile a little. Thanks for having so much faith in us, Naruto, but it's not as simple as that. My father served loyally to Konoha for decades as chief of the military police, yet in the end he decided to lead a coup. But I'm sure it wouldn't have done it if Obito didn't manipulate him. Naruto protested. He's the real culprit behind that. Naruto-kun, even if that might be true, the Uchihas weren't forced or coerced. They attempted the coup on their own volition, Shizen softly said. Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, they have nobody but themselves to blame for it, Shisui agreed with his wife. And it's on us to pick up the pieces and rebuild the clan into something greater, that won't make the same mistakes of the past. You know, now that you mention it, the Uzumaki clan's downfall was pretty similar, Naruto said, earning the attention of those present. Uzushio wanted to be a great village at any cost and well, it brought the wrath of 2 other great villages upon it. Maybe it's not something exclusive to the Uchiha and inherent to all of the sage's descendants, Shisui said with a chuckle, maybe joking, maybe not. You mentioned that the Uzumaki and the Senju were descended from the sage's youngest son, right? I don't remember hearing anything similar regarding the Senju clan, so that might not be it, Itachi interjected. Naruto, you said that the Sharingan has a form even higher than the Mangekyo Sharingan, right? Sasuke asked. Itachi shot him an apprehensive look. Yeah, the Rinnegan. It awakens when the yin half of the 6 paths chakra all Uchiha have is combined with the yang half of the Senju or the Uzumaki, Naruto explained, before shooting Sasuke an intriguing look. Why? Do you want to get one? Sasuke, Itachi tiredly said. What? It would be an useful tool against the Akatsuki. And you said one of the Akatsuki have it too, right? Sasuke asked. So there may be more Uchihas in the Akatsuki besides Obito, Shisui guessed, sighing a little. Actually, I think they might be an Uzumaki, Naruto interjected. All of them looked at the blonde in surprise. Come again? Shizen asked. During our mission in Suna, we found out that Akatsuki also have access to Uzumaki sealing jutsu, Naruto began. However, it was a kind of seal that required a lot of chakra to make it work. That's why it made me realize that said Uzumaki seals might not be stolen. Now, it's possible that this person, besides Uzumaki, might also have Uchiha ancestry. That's how he or she was able to awaken the Rinnegan. Do you guys know about any Uchiha who disappeared under mysterious circumstances, defected the village or something along those lines? Shisui sighed. None come to mind, but it could be just about any Uchiha. Until a couple years ago, we all thought Obito died during the Third War, yet it turned out it wasn't the case. Maybe an Uchiha faked his death in order to defect Konoha, met an Uzumaki, and had a child together that would awaken the Rinnegan. Naruto slumped in defeat. So nothing then. Itachi, you've been gathering information about the Akatsuki. Do you have any idea regarding this mystery? Shizen asked. Just one, but it's not very reliable, Itachi replied. I heard rumors that Akatsuki had infiltrated Amigakure. This is coupled with the fact that Hanzo the Salamander, Amigakure's leader, hasn't been seen in years, despite official word being that he's still the leader. Wait a minute, you think somebody ousted Hanzo the Salamander? As in, the same Hanzo who defeated the Sannin in their prime? Shisui asked, incredulous. Somebody with a Rinnegan could have done it, Itachi countered. But like I said, these are just rumors with no actual solid evidence to back them up. Gathering said evidence would require an infiltration in Amigakure. Naruto nodded wordlessly. Silence briefly reigned over the apartment. That is, until a realization dawned upon Shisui. Hey, all of these stuff Naruto told us about doesn't it sound similar to the stone tablet, the one-eyed Uchiha asked. Now that you mention, yes. I knew this sounded similar to me for some reason, Sasuke agreed. Naruto, however, was completely lost. Stone tablet? What stone tablet? It will be better to directly show you, Itachi decided. Let's move this conversation somewhere else, shall we? The others nodded. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Uchiha training ground, a few minutes later, you still keep a private training ground? Naruto asked, as he walked alongside the Uchihas through the field of grass, heading towards a small forest. I thought you gave all the old Uchiha properties to the village as a compensation for the insurrection. We did, but Hokage-sama allowed us to keep this training ground, Itachi replied. Given how far from the village they usually are, nobody would be interested in building anything here, so there wouldn't be any money to be made. We dug an underground chamber below this field to store all our clan's secrets and knowledge, once we no longer had the compound, Shisui explained. Though what we're looking for isn't underground. In fact, we're already here, Shizun announced. The group were now standing in a small clearing surrounded by the middle of the clearing, surrounded by thick rope held by 4 stakes forming a square. There was a large stone tablet with several characters carved upon its surface. So, this is the stone tablet? Naruto asked to no one in particular. Sasuke grunted something the blonde took as a yes. He tried to read the tablet's inscription, but was unable to do so. Do you guys understand what it says? It's like a bunch of gibberish to me. Naturally. The ciphers of the stone tablet can only be translated by a Sharingan, Shisui replied. The Mangekyo Sharingan allows to translate it even further. And even then, there are still parts that not even the Mangekyo can fully read, Itachi continued. Which led me to believe that we need the Rinnegan to translate it completely, Sasuke finished. I see. And what does the tablet says? Naruto asked. Mostly secrets regarding the Uchiha clan, and the Sharingan, Itachi began. How the Sharingan works, how the Mangekyo Sharingan can be achieved, how it can be used to put tailed beasts under one's control, as well as other powers. However, there's this line here, it says, 2 opposing forces work together to form all things in the universe, Shisui said. Sounds rather vague, Naruto pointed out. It is. This line has been the subject of much discussion among the Uchiha clan. Many thought that the 2 opposing forces were them and the Senju, and believed that if they stopped fighting the Senju and formed an alliance with them, happiness could be found, Shisui explained. Madara Uchiha, however, believed it meant something else. Many of his clansmen thought that he was just blinded by his hatred of the Senju. However, the information you brought to us has shed a new light over the debate, Itachi interjected. It's possible that this line alludes to the possibility of awakening the Rinnegan, by merging the yin and yang halves of the 6 paths chakra Uchiha and Senju have, respectively. Thank goodness I'm not a Senju by birth. Having to raise 2 children that can awaken the power of a god, Shizun shivered at the thought. No thanks. Think how well they would do in the Chunin exams, though, Shisui joked, laughing a little. Then again, I believe in the first interpretation. When the Senju and the Uchiha buried the hatched and formed Konoha, it was the best for everybody, right? Shizun suggested, as her face became a little more solemn. And sorry for reopening old wounds, but when the Uchiha rebelled and tried to subdue their former friends and allies, Shizun left the sentence unfinished, but the message was more than clear. Don't worry. If there's a silver lining to this, is that future generations of Uchiha will learn from their ancestors' mistakes, and won't have to go through the same suffering, Itachi replied. By the way, guys, where did you find this stone tablet? Who wrote it in the first place? Naruto asked. Nobody knows. It has been in our clan since pretty much forever, Shisui replied. Some said that it was the sage of the 6 paths himself who wrote it to guide the Uchiha. It was believed to be just nonsense, but given what we now know it may as well be true. Wonder if the sage left another tablet for the Senju or the Uzumaki, Naruto mused. Anyway, now that you know the history of your clan, what do you plan to do? Probably the same thing we've been doing so far. Living our lives, becoming the best ninjas we can be, Itachi replied, shrugging a little. And continue undoing the damage our fallen brethren did to the village. Though now that we know about the curse of hatred, we'll do our best to overcome it, Shisui added. Yeah. Plus, I refuse to let some old guy who died centuries ago to dictate my life, Uchiha ancestor or not, Sasuke firmly stated. Naruto smiled a little. Glad to hear that, Naruto then turned around, and realized that the sun was starting to set. Whoa, I didn't realize it was so late. I have to go to the Hyuga compound. Late for a date with Hinata, Naruto-kun? Shizune asked, giggling a little. Even better. Hinata is going to be named head of the Hyuga clan. Naruto enthusiastically announced as he ran away. Say what? Hyuga State. An hour later Hanabi stirred in the couch, blinking slowly, groaning as she slowly woke up. You're finally awake, Hanabi-chan, Hinata said, smiling. She was sitting on the couch beside her, with Hanabi's legs resting on her lap. I had the weirdest dream ever, Hanabi groaned as she sat up, rubbing her eyes with the back of her hand. What kind of dream? Hinata asked, though she could imagine the answer. It had some weird old man with horns, and glowing eyes, kinda like yours, Hanabi explained, trying to recall the rather vivid dream. He said something about how now I had a great power and that I had to be responsible with it. Sounds like a rather cliché line from a comic book. There's more truth to those words than what you think, Hanabi-chan, Hinata replied, as she handed her sister a compact mirror. Feeling a bit agitated by such action, Hanabi opened the mirror and looked at her reflection. She yelped, and instinctively dropped the mirror. My eyes. What happened to my eyes? They're like dash, she stopped, before noticing Hinata looking at her. Like yours. Yes. Your Byakugan is a Tensegan now. An ascended form that will grant you an array of new and powerful abilities, Hinata explained. Wow, Hanabi said in awe. And how did I manage to do that? Hey, wait a second. What you did before I fell asleep? Hinata nodded. Yes. I transferred some of my six paths chakra so you could awaken it. While not much, your body will now generate more six paths chakra so the amount you possess will match mine. Hanabi titled her head. Six paths chakra? It's a bit complicated. You see that moment, the door of the living room slid open and Hikari walked in. Oh, Hanabi, you're awake already. And look at that, with a Tensegan as well, Hikari smiled. And just in time. The whole clan is gathered outside. Time to make the announcement. Announcement? What announcement? Hanabi asked. Hikari couldn't help but smile knowingly. You'll see soon. When Naruto arrived at the Hyuga State, there was a huge crowd of Hyugas formed in the front patio. However, despite his initial fear, he realized that the announcement hasn't been made yet, much to his relief. Even if deep down he knew Hinata would forgive him, he wouldn't, and he didn't want to miss his girlfriend's big day. Naruto wasn't alone. He made sure to bring both Haku and Kurenai with him, so the whole ass assault squad could be present for the announcement. You know, Naruto, Kurenai began. When you told me Hinata was going to be made clan head, I was rather skeptical, but seeing this crowd, well, it supports your claims. You didn't see Hinata-san after we returned from our latest mission, did you, Kurenai-sensei? Haku asked. The Genjutsu mistress shook her head. Let's say that Hinata came from that mission more changed than anybody else. We'll explain you after we're done with this, because you just can't imagine what Hinata is now, Naruto cryptically said, visibly enjoying his sensei's confusion. At that moment, the murmurs of the gathered Hyugas, and few guests, came to a halt when the state's main doors slid open, revealing the current clan head Hikari, flanked by her two daughters. The murmurs began once again when everybody noticed the blue and white glowing eyes the Hyuga sisters were sporting now. Hikari cleared her throat before she started speaking. My esteemed clansmen, both main and branch houses, thanks for heeding my call and gathering here. There's an important announcement that I need to make. But before I do, I have to explain a certain series of recent developments, in order to give all of you the context of the situation. As you probably know by their presence, our clan is now housing a group of religious scholars known as the Order of the Moon Acolytes. Said acolytes possess numerous historical records and treasures regarding our clan and its past. Among those, is the ability to elevate the Byakugan to a higher level, called the Tenseigan. The murmurs became suddenly louder when Hikari made such announcement. Even if some Hyugas made questions regarding it, the Hyuga matriarch chose to ignore them. Before you ask, yes. My daughters have awakened the Tenseigan. So far, due their lineage, they're the only ones capable of doing it, Hikari continued. Her explanation wasn't entirely true, but felt it should be for the better to keep the whole truth of the Tenseigan under wraps for them time being. Hinata and Hanabi now possess a power not just beyond any Hyuga, but beyond most ninjas as well. All they need now is proper training in order to master that power. We've recently discovered that our clan are descendants of another clan named Otsutsuki. Like us, they also had a Byakugan, and their family was structured into a main and branch houses. And their leader was always somebody who possessed a Tenseigan. And, to honor such ancient tradition, and due the fact that both my daughters have surpassed me in terms of power, I have made a decision. I hereby step down from my position as the Hyuga clan head. Now everybody, give a warm welcome to our new clan head, my eldest daughter, Hinata Hyuga. Naturally, the news weren't met with cheers and celebrations. Hinata wasn't popular among main house members due her opposition to most of the clan's traditions and hierarchy. And even if she was popular among branch house members, they still considered her too young to be a proper leader. Hikari moved aside, and let Hinata take the spot she was occupying. Thank you, mother. Hinata then turned at the large group in front of her, made mostly of her clansmen. Like my mother told you, we recently discovered the true history of our clan. They had similar customs and traditions as ours, in order to make sure a few members had absolute power over the rest. Said customs led them to their downfall, and we will follow the same path, if we don't change. After many centuries, our clan finally recovered the Tenseigan, a power that was lost during the Otsutsuki clan's downfall in the past. And as its wielder, it's my responsibility to use this great power for the whole clan's interest and well-being. And thus, my first decree as the new clan head is to abolish the separation between main and branch houses. Application of the caged bird seal shall be banned for future members, and while I'm looking for a way to remove the existing seals, any main house member that is caught using the caged bird seal to threaten, coerce, or cause pain to a branch house member will suffer harsh consequences. Naturally, the effect was immediate. While the many branch house members started to cheer and sing the praises of their new clan head, most main house members started to protest loudly. You can't do that. You'll tear the clan apart. This will end in a disaster. Suddenly, Hinata's eyes flashed white for a second, as she sent a pulse of chakra. The air became much heavier, and everybody felt as if Hinata's eyes were piercing their very souls. Everybody was silenced upon realizing the sheer power the new clan head possessed. Hikari wasn't exaggerating. Opposing her wouldn't be wise. Do you question the decisions of our clan head? Hikari smugly asked. But Hinata-sama, a middle-aged main house member began, sounding more pleading than demanding. The caged bird seal is a crucial tool to stop our enemies from acquiring the Byakugan. What will we do then? What other clans with bloodline limits do, push ourselves harder and grow stronger. The stronger we are, the less chances our enemies will have to steal our eyes, Hinata sharply said. The Hyuga had always prided in being one of the strongest clans of Konoha. Let's show everybody that we can back those boasts. You can't do this, another main house member, a woman, protested. Clan head or not, you can't change our ancient traditions on a whim. I think Hinata made it clear that there will be consequences for those who oppose her, Hikari replied the woman. So if we refuse, she will impose her will by force? What a tyrant your oh so meek and gentle daughter turned out to be when she got some power handed to her, the woman scoffed. Hikari was about to protest, but Hinata beat her to the punch. Tyrant? Imposing my will by force? Isn't that what the main house has been doing to the branch house for generations? The woman opened her mouth to reply, but no words came from it. She closed it, hesitating, as if trying to come up with a proper argument to refute Hinata's claims. She mumbled something, but eventually shut up. That's what I thought. If any of you think I'm abusing my both authority and my new power, feel free to express your concerns to me. But before doing so, I want you to realize that this is how the branch house members have felt their whole lives, Hinata replied, resting her eyes on them. In fact, I don't see them complaining about my decisions or calling me a tyrant. This made the main house members realize that they were both outnumbered and overpowered. The branch house was the majority of the clan, and if Hinata had their support, on top of the incredible power she now possessed, her rule would be pretty much uncontested. For the time being, that will be all, Hinata said. More changes are bound to come in the near future. I know the Hyuga clan values tradition, but hopefully in time you'll see that these changes are for the better, and you'll agree with me as well. You're dismissed. The murmurs began once again as the crowd gathered in the patio started to slowly dissolve. Hinata's teammates, however, remained there. Was that Hinata? The same Hinata that has been my student, a flabbergasted Kurenai asked. She radiated so much power. Naruto finished. Confidence, Kurenai corrected. I mean, Hinata did grew more confident over time, but such jump in attitude was quite the shock. Hinata-san always tried to put the more belligerent clan members in their place, and now she has the power to do so, Haku added. Don't worry. Deep down, she's still the same kind person we know and love. A few minutes later, Hinata, Hikari, and Hanabi returned to the living room. So how did I do? Hinata unsurely asked. That was amazing. I've never seen you being so assertive. Hanabi excitedly praised. Don't you think I exceeded myself? Hinata asked once again. Not in the clan head now, you should show them who's in charge, Hikari firmly stated. By the way, I loved what you did with that chakra pulse. A really good way to let those idiots know who we're dealing with. Speaking of which, mother, you still haven't told me what are my responsibilities now that I'm the one in charge, Hinata asked. Don't worry about that. For the time being, I'll continue doing the boring part of the job. All you have to do is to make sure change can finally happen within the clan, Hikari replied. By the way, mother, if you wanted the caged bird seal gone, why you didn't abolish it yourself? Hanabi asked. It's not that simple, sweetie. As you can see, most of the main house opposed its abolition, and if a clan had tried to eliminate it by force, the whole clan would fall into chaos, Hikari explained. But with Hinata Nichan is different, Hanabi concluded. Is because of the Tensigen? Hikari nodded. Though it's not just because of the power. Both you and Hinata are the first persons in literally centuries to awaken a higher form of the Byakugan that most of us thought it was just a myth. Your place in the clan is too important to earn your anonymity. Imagine if the Sage of the Six Paths appeared and asked to be made Hokage. I doubt anybody would turn down such request. But I'm not the Sage of the Six Paths, Hinata protested. No, but you have the same eyes his brother once had, if what you and Nori-san told me it's true, Hikari cheekily replied. Yes, some clansmen will call you a tyrant, but don't listen to them. You're doing something great, and you will have my support. And mine too. Hanabi chimed in. And if you feel that using your power against them is wrong, remember that I also have a Tensigen, but I'm not the clan head. Hanabi said with an evil giggle, as she punched her palm for added emphasis. Hanabi-chan. Joking. I was just joking. Sheesh. Hanabi protested, holding her hands defensively. I was totally not joking, Hanabi added under her breath. By the way, I saw your teammates outside during the announcement. How about if we invite them to have dinner for us, to celebrate your appointment? Hikari suggested. Hinata smiled warmly. I'd love it. Outskirts of Takigakure, a month later, hidden within the thick forests that surrounded the village of Takigakure, there was a large army that waited the order to move on. Said army was rather diverse, ranging from thugs unable to use chakra, ninja mercenaries, missing ninja whose strength ranged from genin to low jonin, and finally robe-wearing religious cultist whose entire skin was dyed in black and white, with skeletal patterns. Commanding this army were two members of Akatsuki, Haiden and Kakuzu. They've been spending the last few weeks gathering this army to assault Takigakure. Most of them would die, but the Akatsuki cared very little for their eventual fate. "The troops are ready to fight," Haiden said, as he walked towards his partner. "I can already smell all the blood that's going to be spilled today. Jashin-sama will be pleased. Make sure you and the lunatics that follow you do your job. And remember, do not harm the Jinchuriki," Kakuzu stressed. Haiden rolled his eyes, and groaned loudly. How many times did Kakuzu need to remind him that? As far as his tenure in Akatsuki go, he didn't kill any Jinchuriki yet. Even then, the cultist decided not to answer that. Yeah, whatever," Haiden dismissively said. "So, this is your former village, right? I'm sure you can't wait to burn this shithole to the ground. While I try to keep personal feelings away from business, I'm going to admit that yes, I'm going to enjoy this mission in particular," Kakuzu confessed. Haiden's grin formed a sadistic grin. "Then what are we waiting for? Very well. Send the attack order." Haiden couldn't repress a glee upon thinking in the incoming battle. Soon, the world will be one ninja village down, and Akatsuki will have one more tailed beast in their power. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Support the original author by clicking their profile link in the pinned comment of the first video of this series. They deserve the love. Want early access and exclusive content? Join my Patreon community, link below. Your support fuels these videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay entertained. Stay safe.